Good evening. My name is Chuck Iovan, and I will be presiding over this evening's meeting of the Planning Board, October 11th, 2003. First thing we're going to do is read the notice about being filmed. For those in attendance, under the provisions of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting may be recorded by Urban Media Arts, formerly MATV. I have not been notified that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. The next thing we'll do is we will do our roll call, starting with Ronnie.
Ronnie Raj Verma, Planning Board.
Risa Gray, Planning Board.
Diane Shuha, Planning Board.
Ken Antonucci, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Pat Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Stephanie Stone, Planning Board.
Thank you. First item on our agenda this evening is 76 Granville Avenue. Diane, could you read the notice, please?
Yes. The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass., at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, on the petition of James Motzkin, trustee of the Saratoga Trust and of the Malden Realty Trust, in permit application number CMID059793-2023, seeking a special permit under Title 12, Chapter 28, Section 010D1 of the Code of the City of Malden to reconstruct, extend, and structurally change a pre-existing non-conforming property and use in the Residence A zoning district, namely to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling for continued use as a four-family dwelling at a proposed development site to be comprised of two existing parcels to be combined. The property known as and numbered 76 Granville Ave, Malden, Mass., and by City's Assessor's Parcel ID number 104712208, and the property known as Granville Place, no number, Malden, Mass., and by City's Assessor's Parcel ID number 104712206.
Thank you, Diane. And I see the attorney for the petitioner is present. And thank you for signing in, Counselor. I ask everyone that if you come up to the podium to speak, that you state your name and address for the record, and please sign the clipboard so we have proper spelling. Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas Callahan with offices at 1 Center Street, representing James Motzkin, the trustee of the Saratoga Trust. We're here seeking a special permit to reconstruct a pre-existing non-conforming use. I believe the board is somewhat familiar with 76 Granville, having heard a previous application in the late spring, and more recently, last month, you voted approval for a repetitive petition so that we could be here tonight. As you may recall, we have committed to merging the front lot fronting on Granville Ave, containing about 5,000 square feet. We're going to merge that with a rear lot which fronts on Granville Place to bring it to a total of approximately 10,500 square feet for the new merged lot. The application in front of you tonight has incorporated, in our belief, your findings at the meeting in late spring and addressed your concerns on the overuse of the property. The prior proposed addition is no longer on our plans. What we are presenting tonight is simply a reconstruction of the existing structure on the existing footprint. There's no addition to these plans, and I think that was one of the main concerns of the board in the late spring. Additionally, we changed the parking arrangement to make 4 parking spaces off of Granville Avenue and 4 spaces off of off of Granville Place. Previously, we had had 6 spaces that needed to access and egress off of Granville Place, but we reduced that to 4. Additionally, our proposed development conforms to zoning on a number of counts, including parking, open space, and snow storage, which is an improvement to the current situation. We recommend that the pending application is not more detrimental to the neighborhood, and in fact, I think it'll be an enhancement to the neighborhood, not expanding at all on the footprint, but providing a new revitalized structure to the neighborhood. So I'd like to just introduce now John Stone, our architect, who will provide you with an overview of the site and the floor plans. And then from there, Hayes Engineering, Joe Grillo, will provide you with site details, including drainage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Jonathan Stone, O'Sullivan Architects, 606 Main Street in Reading, Massachusetts. As Mr. Callahan had already stated, we are planning to reconstruct the building on the existing footprint. We're reconfiguring space inside with some minor variations. The intent would be to have a unit on the lowest level, a 2-bedroom flat, accessed from the back off of Granville Ave, with some utility space behind that, with including sprinkler rooms and mechanical space for the building itself. As you move up to the first floor of the building, there would also be a 2-bedroom flat across the entire first floor, stretching from front to back, with access from the front off of Granville, as well as access into the side yard where the now driveway would be, where the new yard is being put. As you move up through the building, the top 2 floors, which would be the second floor and the attic space, is going to have 2 duplex units, both of which access from the main stairwell off of the front stair from Granville. And you'll go up the 2 stairs, get into the public space for those 2 with bedrooms above into the attic space, and the roof will have dormers to provide area for that. The limited changes are to the existing building. When we reconstruct, would be the bays on the existing building had angled walls. We're proposing that they be squared off to provide a little bit of extra space. Other than that, they'll be on the exact same footprint. The existing condition right now has a retaining wall running down the side of Granville Place. It varies in height. It comes from about 2 feet at the street level from the entrance to the back, which is about 8 feet, plus or minus. We're proposing removing that in order to widen the street a little bit and provide some gravel space there for cars to pass each other, and regrading, using the building itself as retaining the site on the opposite side of the building. As Mr. Callan said before, we're meeting on most of the zoning. The pre-existing non-conforming stuff will still be existing. We're using the building for the same number of units, providing enough parking for all of the units. Reconfigure the parking so that we would have only 4 of the spaces driving down Granville Place to get to the rear of the site in order to park there as well. The structure itself will be similar materials. Right now it's vinyl sided clapboard. We're gonna propose fiber cement siding. Shingles will change the color of the dormers so that it will just appear slightly smaller than it does now. The existing building has the dormers, which are built above the roof, and they seem to extend over the ridge now. We're going to remove all that and build it the way it should be built, so it feels as though it's an actual dormered roof and attic space with livable space in there. The only other thing would we would try to maintain as much as we can across the back of the site, the existing slope. The only part that we're proposing that we will regrade will be to provide for the parking in the entrance to the lowest level. Everything else beyond that site will remain the same. As far as open space, we meet the requirement for open space as defined by the zoning. It is mostly where the driveway was before, but if you're looking at the plan itself, the rendered plan of the site, there's a green space all the way down, which is driveway now. We're removing that driveway and filling that in. That's our 20-foot space to meet the zoning requirement for a usable open space. The rear of the site, some of the rear of the site will meet under the 8% requirement, but we did not use that space since we assumed there could be some changes there, but we do believe there'll be some extra space there, but we're not counting that in our calculation. building will be sprinkled as required by code. All of the units themselves, we have checked, all of them meet egress patterns, distances, everything meets all building code requirements. There is existing porch, roof deck above the front porch now. We're planning on keeping that. There's an existing decks off the back of the building. We're planning on keeping something similar to that, except it'll be much smaller to provide additional space for the tenants. That's essentially all we're doing. The rest of it will be constructed on the same footprint. If there's any questions.
Yeah, I actually have a couple, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So you're going to use the same footprint,
Yes.
so you won't be pouring a new foundation?
We have not inspected the foundation fully. We assume we will have to use new foundation.
Okay. So you're using the same shape, but
Yep.
not the same foundation?
Yes, correct.
Where are you gonna, where are you proposing to store trash?
So
I didn't see anywhere.
we do not have a space provided for trash. The space we were assuming it would be up against next to the driveway. There's a small space next to where the steps are. We reconfigured the front steps to provide for a front lawn. Now they face the street. We've turned them sideways, but we would assume it would be barrels for the units in those locations. But we could provide it. We did not show a shed, but we could provide it.
At the upper parking lot?
We would assume it would be there for ease, but it could also be located towards the back off of Granville Place. But we would prefer to put it into a shed if we were going to. It would be enclosed. It wouldn't be open.
Okay. You mentioned gravel. Was that, when I went by, it looked like it recently paved.
The street has
Granville
been
Place.
recently paved, but I believe that the retaining wall is still there. We're planning on removing that retaining wall. That's directly on the property line now. So that will be coming out. We'll be using the building to retain. So that strip will be next to the street. Instead of landscaping with grass, we're proposing gravel so that
That's
cars
where
can't
you'll
get
do gravel?
past each other.
Okay.
Or some sort of pervious material.
Okay, with regard to the retaining walls, one of them appears to be in excess of the ordinance.
Yes.
What are you doing to address that? And,
Address the retaining wall itself.
yeah,
We
if
haven't-
you're gonna have a 9.2,
Yeah, so we would have to have the wall engineered by a structural engineer to build a concrete wall there faced with stone. I believe it would not be unilock, because we'd have to pitch that back, and we don't have the room for that.
okay, so how are you gonna handle safety above it?
We would put on anything that is over a 30-inch from one side finished to the other, there would be a guardrail put onto that.
So you're gonna do a guardrail
Yes.
for the retaining wall that exceeds it,
Anything that exceeds the 2'6".
okay?
I believe you're showing a guardrail if you look at sheet number 4, would be the number 3, the rear elevation.
Oh, okay,
See the guardrail coming down, and it
well,
will
the
also
fen-
act as the handrail for the stairs as well.
the fences,
Yes.
okay. Okay, no, that's good. Thank you. How long do you think presuming it moves forward, how long would you expect construction to take?
That would probably depend on the availability of materials. I'm not really sure. Jimmy, when do you think you would be wanting to go? About a year? Yeah, so approximately a year.
Okay. The last question I have, currently, there isn't a basement apartment,
There is not.
but you're proposing a basement apartment in the new,
Yeah, we're proposing an
Version.
yes, so currently, the way it stands now, there's 4 units. They're located on the first, second floor in the attic. We've just reconfigured the space to provide the same number of units, but make the units themselves more attractive, more livable space.
right, but why would you choose a basement apartment? Was there
Because of
an
the way
architecture?
because of the way the grading of the site goes, you can provide open wall on 2 sides of the unit, so the space is usable. The average grade still maintains fairly high because of the difference in the 2 sides. So the average grade still is at approximately halfway down. We're a little bit under the halfway mark, but it allows us to have that same rendering, number 3. You get a full open wall in the back. so it's a more efficient way to use the space.
Okay, is there anyone else have any questions for the architect? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just curious on the basement apartment.
Sure.
Again, so you're most likely going to have to remove the existing foundation, excavate, whatever you're gonna need to be able to put the new concrete foundation in.
Yeah, in order to put
Do
the
you
new slab.
expect to excavate deeper to be able to get required ceiling height in the basement?
I think there's some outcropping in the basement now. I believe that there is, so obviously we'll have to move that to get a new slab in. The basement itself right now, I believe, is at the same height we're calling for. The condition of the slab, I guess, would probably determine whether or not we would remove. We would have to dig down further, but I don't think we'll go down any further. We won't have to.
Okay, so, I mean, I haven't seen any pictures or been in the basement, and you mentioned some outcroppings.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
believe
there's
that,
ledge around there.
yeah, I've seen a picture of the basement. I haven't been in it myself, but I believe in one of the corners there is a little bit of outcropping, and then half of it is dirt, from what I believe.
Okay, so in order to, you may have to do
We may have to do some excavation.
a little excavation to get deep enough to get, because you're not raising the
We're not-
elevation of the building.
We're not raising, no, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah. I would assume we'd have to do that for footings for a new foundation wall as well, anyway, we'd have to
Okay.
excavate some of that.
All right, yeah, as long as you get the required height for the inside and not have to get into any ledge demo.
That's what we're hoping, yeah, that's the idea. There has been some pits done out there, and we believe we're gonna be above it. The only ledge removal, if we have to hit some, would be where the retaining wall's gonna be. But we've
Okay.
done some tests, and we think we're gonna be above that.
Okay, and
For
then,
the basement floor, let me say it that way.
all right, how about for the utilities? Are you gonna be able to use the same tie-ins to the sewer and water? Has anybody investigated that, or?
We have for the sewer, yes, the electric, water and labor coming out right in place now.
Excuse me, sir, if you're gonna talk, can you
Yeah,
please
one
come
of
up,
them.
name and address for the record?
I was wondering where that
and
voice
sign the
was.
clipboard.
I was wondering where that voice was
Hi,
coming
I'm Joe Grillo, representing Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street, Wakefield.
Very good.
So, yes, the water will be coming off of Granville Place now instead of off of Granville Avenue as it currently is. All other utility connections, we plan to utilize the existing services.
Okay, all right. Because that's pretty much the only allowance for ledge chipping or whatever is for utilities, unless, if you need to do more. That's something separate. Okay. All right.
I'm so sorry, I was writing my name. Was that a question?
No, I was just clarifying. Thank you.
Mr. Grillo, did you prepare the stormwater management plan?
I did.
Has that been approved by the city engineer, do you know?
I personally have not heard back.
But you submitted
Raise
it.
your hand if you have. We have not directly heard back from engineering, no. We did get a letter when we were in here April. It was a letter of recommendations and some design criteria. So since then, we have increased the size of our underground infiltration chambers to make sure that we handle the whole 100-year storm. There's no increase in rate or runoff to any of the design points. We believe we've met all the engineering requests.
But there's no increase in the runoff that
No,
you
rate or
calculated?
runoff are actually decreased everywhere.
Okay, that's more what I was interested in hearing from that end. Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just going back to the water. So why are you putting new water services in off Granville Place versus coming off of the existing?
I believe it has to do with the location of the utility room in the basement, and also they have a proposed sprinkler system, so there'd have to be a second tap coming in anyways. I don't know if there's any reason we couldn't go back to Granville Ave if we were asked to.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions, engineering related?
Hold on a second, Eric Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may be in your wheelhouse, sir. The question is, I heard something about a requirement of there being sprinklers. I'm not familiar with that requirement as it applies What triggers that requirement?
The number of units would require it, and the new residential code and commercial code are requiring it for pretty much everything now. You have to put in sprinkler systems. So we have 4 units now existing. We're proposing 4 more, so we would provide sprinklers for the whole building as a code requirement.
So 4 is the base, if to your knowledge?
3 or more, I believe.
3 or more? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure.
Risa Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you know how much space you're widening the road when you remove the retaining wall?
I believe it's just under 5 feet, I believe it is, from the property line to the building itself.
Thank you.
Patrick Hayes.
I'm on the same issue. So you talked about taking down that retaining wall, widening the street a little bit. But when I look at the first floor site plan, it looks like there's an areaway that you're creating for lighting to get down below?
There is an areaway as proposed for the unit in the lowest level, yes.
So that 5 feet that you're adding to the street, how far into that roadway does that areaway project?
The areaway needs to be a minimum of 3 feet,
3 feet?
yeah. But
So there's-
only in front of those windows themselves, not the full length of the street itself.
Right. So, I mean, do you feel there needs to be any protection for automobiles, you know, sort of like around that?
We're certainly open to putting that in there. I think we would probably end up putting a guardrail on it anyway, based on the depth of it.
Yep.
If it's over the 30 inches, I believe, we'd have it anyway. But if we want bollards or something like that, we'd be happy to add those as well. They're not attractive, but.
I'm just thinking, you know, I mean, from the elevation, you know, when you look at the renderings, you know, the roadway, there's actually greenscape in front of the building, not gravel.
Yeah, this rendering
and-
was, this rendering was done when we proposed to not
Just-
have it be the gravel, but yes, we,
I can only respond to what I see.
for
so,
sure,
yeah.
of course, of course.
But, you know, I mean, when you look at the areaway and how low that wall is and potential traffic.
Yep.
It
Protection.
would be something that you need to think about.
Yep, sure,
Yeah.
vehicle protection.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Ken Antonucci.
In the same topic, so just to be clear, you're not actually widening Granville Place.
No, it's.
Your Granville Place, just for clarification, is going to stay the same width. You're
Yes.
providing an area on your property that people, if they're trying to pass, can pull onto a gravel portion
Yes, we're not planning.
between these, you know, back window wells.
Yes, we're not, it's, the property is on our site. We're just saying instead of landscaping it, because of the narrowness of it, it would allow for people to pass each other without getting out to the
Yeah,
main.
no, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, so, because
For
you
sure.
mentioned that they were
Yeah.
widening the street and not
No.
widening the street.
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Michelle, I know you have a few, but is there anyone on the board who has any? Michelle?
Thank you. So if we could just go back to the comment about the window well. So Pat, you were referring to sheet 4, item 2, Granville Place elevation that shows grass along that. Is that correct? Just for everyone's reference. So you're proposing gravel or crushed stone? I
Yeah,
think one
so
of
if
the
it-
plans said crushed stone.
Yeah, it could be crushed stone. It's going to be pervious for sure. But if you look at the floor plans themselves, the first floor site plan on the first sheet, or the first floor layout, it shows it as the
Right.
stone.
So we're talking about a car possibly going over into that, because the curb on the window well is like grade level, right? The
It would be
edging,
just above grade, but we would provide a
so some sort of.
guardrail on it as well.
Guardrail or fencing, okay,
Yep.
so just to be clear, that's what you were talking about,
Yes.
okay. Ledge removal, any ledge removal by any means is gonna require a special permit excluding utilities. So even if it's just a small outcropping in the basement, if it's for the walls, if it's for any part of it, you're gonna need to come back
Okay.
for a special permit. So that's a separate hearing, it's separate filing requirements. So we just want to make that very, very clear, that I will be recommending as a condition of the special permit. Actually, it's already in there, number 8.
Yeah, I believe it's in there.
But yeah, that's definitely something You don't want the whole project stopped because you start to remove ledge without a permit.
For sure.
Okay, and then finally, I just wanted to ask you about the shed. So that's an accessory structure, and because it's a four-family, it would need to comply with the setbacks for the principal structure, so yard setbacks are 15 feet. If you're not gonna comply with the 15 feet, this board would have discretion to grant relief, but you're gonna need to be very specific as to what you would want the board to consider, since there's nothing shown on the plan, and the plans would be approved if the special permit's approved tonight. So we would want to add a condition that talks about the location and size of the shed, unless it's not gonna be a shed and it's just gonna be a covering or something like that. Maybe it won't be considered a structure, but if it ends up being a structure, would either have to, if it's not addressed in the special permit, you're gonna have to come back. So maybe while the process is moving forward, we can think about that, because I'm not sure where it would go, or if you'd meet that 15 feet. If you wouldn't, again, the board can grant you relief, but we'd need to put some parameters in this.
Okay.
So that you'd be able to
That
do
would be
that.
if it's not in the, you're saying if it's within the setback, it would be.
Right.
If it was outside the setback, it would be.
If it's less than 15 feet, the board could grant relief. If it meets the requirements, honestly, the board still needs to grant relief, because that's an accessory structure to pre-existing non-conforming structure. So one way or the other, they need to address it.
Okay.
But it won't just, I won't recommend just an open-ended shed for trash allowed, you know, so we should try to specify where it's gonna go or the space it's gonna go.
Okay.
And this would be for 4 trash barrels and 4 recycling bins.
I would imagine.
Okay. I had that question. I guess back to the basement unit, my only other question, you mentioned everything complies with the code, so this unit will comply with all the lighting, ventilation?
Yes.
What part of it is considered, quote, above grade, do you know?
What part of it?
Like
meaning-
what portion, is like 50% of it above grade, or is most of it, you know, when you're in the unit, is most of it above grade, or?
So we're classified by zoning as a cellar, so we were just under the 50% mark.
Okay.
Of the average grade, since the grade is split on both sides of the building.
Okay,
But if you mean that side of the building itself, the front entrance door of it is at grade.
at the back?
At the back,
Right.
yeah, it'll be the rear. And then on the Granville Place side, it's just under half.
Okay, but there are still, you can still see there are windows and,
Yes.
okay, so
Yes.
none of it's completely below grade?
No.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Pat, were you all set?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question for Michelle. The size of the shed, if it's below a certain size, they can just put a shed in there by right, correct? Or is something about this special permit trigger the need for us to approve any shed on the property?
Right, because the provision reads buildings accessory to single, 2, town, or row houses, 8 or less feet in height and 72 or less square feet in floor area, there's a minimum setback. Then there's accessory buildings for singles and 2s that are greater than that size. But the provision that applies to this is all other accessory buildings shall comply in all respects with the yard requirements of the principal building. So it's coming in under that. It doesn't, the 2 exceptions you're talking about are for other uses, and that would be based on size. There's a smaller setback if it were a shed for a single family and it was less than 72 square feet in floor area. But this is, regardless of the size, it's gonna need to,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, do you have anything else you guys would like to add?
If I may, while the staff report is being read, we'll take the opportunity to discuss the shed and try to provide more information very quickly on the location of the shed, because I think that's what Michelle was suggesting is appropriate, and
Okay, great.
we'll take that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, then, what we will do is entertain anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
No.
Thank you. Last call for anyone to speak in favor. Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone in opposition? Michelle, do you have anything to read in opposition?
No.
If there's no one in opposition, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, can you take us through your staff report, please?
So this is the planning report and recommendation dated October 11, 2023. And I will not be reading this verbatim into the record, but it's incorporated here and by reference into the record. So we heard about the proposal. There'll be a combined development site. As the petitioner mentioned, you did grant consent to file this petition last month, so it is not precluded by law as a repetitive petition. Giving you the breakdown of the existing units and proposed units as configured in the existing building and on the existing lot and in the proposed new building on the proposed new lot. Won't read that into the record, but it's all here for your reference. The plans and information that were submitted is detailed here. Again, I'm not reading that into the record. You have copies of all these plans in your package. The stormwater management report that was submitted is referenced here. You also have a copy, you don't have a copy of that, but you do have a copy of this item 4 open space sketch plan that shows the breakdown of the open space. The property is located in the Residence A zoning district. The original use is unknown. The existing 4 families prohibited in this district. It predates the current ordinance. It's considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposed new dwelling extends this use and is an extension of the pre-existing non-conforming use. It may be allowed by special permit. The direct abutters to the north and west are single-family dwellings. To the east, on the other side of Granville Place, a single-family dwelling and 2-family dwellings, and to the south, on the other side of Granville Avenue, a single-family dwelling and a 2-family dwelling. Surrounding land uses are residential, single and 2-family dwellings, and 1 multifamily dwelling. In terms of dimensional controls, the existing building grossly violates all dimensional controls except height. It is considered pre-existing non-conforming. The proposal eliminates the rear yard setback violation, maintains the side yard setback violation, and reduces existing lot area, front yard setback, open space, and density violations. Giving you the information here, information is based on the plans, information shown on the plans, and provided by the petitioner. I've given you detailed information here about the open space. These are the requirements for all usable open space in all districts. As the petitioner stated, the proposed open space in the southern side yard complies with all the requirements. Other open space areas do not comply with requirements. Giving you the breakdown of those. In terms of retaining walls, the maximum allowed height of retaining walls is 6 feet. You may allow new nonconformities under the special permit. This proposal does include retaining walls with maximum heights that exceed that 6 feet. In particular, the one the chairman noted, 9.2 feet in the rear yard. The existing 4-family dwelling requires 6 parking spaces per applicable requirements. The proposal complies with the current requirements, 1 space per bedroom. 8 spaces are provided, 4 in this non-conforming tandem configuration, with access via Granville Avenue, and 4 surface spaces head-on with access via Granville Place. Granville Place is a private way. As we heard, it's 12 feet in width. There's no cul-de-sac or turnaround area. Snow storage is provided. The Historical Commission reviewed and approved the proposed demolition without delay per its determination dated March 15, 2022. That was done in accordance with the city's demolition alteration delay ordinance. The proposal was submitted to the city, I don't have this noted here, but I did submit the proposal to the city engineer for comments and review. I submitted the stormwater management plan as well as the site plan, grading and drainage plan and other plans. I did not receive comments back to date. The letter that the engineer was talking about was a letter that the city engineer, I believe, provided for one of the prior proposals. I could try to find that if you're interested in that, but that was for a prior proposal. I don't believe it was even for the last proposal. I think it was for the proposal before that he provided it, because I think last time we hadn't received comments either. So,
I see that we're, condition number 4 is that they have to
right,
adhere to it, so
Right.
that's okay.
yeah, okay. So the finding required to grant a special permit, you would need to find that the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. In terms of these new nonconformities that would be created in terms of the retaining walls, dimensional controls, anything else, open space, you would need to also make that finding that the increase in violations or creation of any new violations would not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. So the recommendation that's prepared prior to the public hearing, provided you make the required findings, to grant this petition for a special permit subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans, except as modified by these conditions. 2, merge parcel 76 Granville Avenue, parcel ID 104712208 in no number Granville Place, parcel ID 1047127-206, via the approval not required subdivision control process. File plan with city for endorsement, record plan at registry of deeds. 3, maximum total number of bedrooms is 8. 4, install drainage and stormwater management systems on site as per plan, subject to approval and reasonable modification of city engineer. 5, no additional paving of any yard areas. Maintain all yard areas as open space and landscaped with patio pavers, walkways, grassland, shrubbery, and trees as per plans. One thing I will note, we didn't talk about the trees that are in the back on the no number Granville Place lot. They are shown, there are trees shown on the plan. I believe those are existing trees. So I just want to point that out to you. I'm not sure if you want to make any note about the existing trees being maintained or anything like that, or get more information from the petitioner about that. I would say if they're shown on this plan, they would be required to maintain them. However, they're not, being planted as new trees. So maybe I would definitely recommend that you specify including existing trees if you want those to be included.
Included as part of your
Right.
condition 5?
Right. Right, so like I'm saying, maintain the landscaping as shown. I'm just noting that this is, could be considered a gray area. This isn't new landscaping, this is existing, right? These trees back here, I don't believe they were proposing to plant those trees. I think those are existing, so you may want to say including existing trees.
Yes, if you can add that, please.
Okay, so I'll add that, including existing trees. 6, temporary construction dumpster allowed, no permanent dumpster allowed. 7, install and maintain fall protection safety fencing on top of retaining walls higher than 30 inches. 8, any ledge removal by any means excluding utilities shall require a special permit per the zoning ordinance. 9, I have a suggested 9, install guardrail, other protection around window wells on Granville Place. And then 10, I'm recommending that you do specify accessory shed for trash, recycling, barrel, storage may be allowed, and then specify where, and I guess you don't need to specify the size. I guess accessory shed for trash, recycling, barrels may be allowed, in the side yard, northern side yard, or whatever you want to say, or whatever location they've come up with. I would be as specific as you can. If you say northern front side yard or adjacent to the front porch, or you want to be as specific as you can so that it doesn't end up somewhere back, you know, where you don't want it, or where it might affect the neighbors.
Okay.
So wherever you think, or they're gonna recommend.
That last condition, number 10 notwithstanding, does anyone have any other questions on the other 9 for Michelle? Eric Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more of a point of contention. It appears that more and more we're seeing and receiving petitions before us that do not have approved drainage and stormwater management plans from the city engineer. And I'm wondering, I don't recall that being the process when I was a neophyte, but should we have these plans before we're being asked to approve things that are not before us? With regards to the drainage plans, why are we not receiving approved drainage plans with these petitions?
My understanding, and Michelle, you can add to it or correct me if I'm wrong, they're submitting a plan. It's not, and it's being submitted to the city engineer, but we're not receiving a report out from the city engineer in time for these meetings. So I don't know that it's a problem from the petitioner. It seems to be an internal problem from that end. Michelle, can you add any flavor to that?
I would agree with that. The only thing I could suggest is, you know, the board may want to consider amending its own rules and submission requirements. If you, just like you want a site plan that's prepared by a registered engineer or surveyor that specifies what needs to be on it, if you want a drainage or stormwater management plan that's been reviewed by the city engineer, then that could be a filing requirement. But, you know, keep in mind, then that in that route, you'd be putting the responsibility on the petitioner to get that reviewed and approved before it's filed. That's the only thing I can think of at this point. We do, when stormwater management plans come in, drainage, grading plans come in, I do submit them to the city engineer and request for review. I do even submit reminders and follow-ups and things like that. The meeting's coming up, you know, and I ask for any comments or recommendations. The only other thing I could add is it's possible he has no comments or recommendations. That's why he didn't submit any.
That's been rather consistent here, it would seem.
Well, that's the only other thing I could think of, you know. I don't have any comments or recommendations to give you. I put this as a placeholder.
That sounds like an administrative thing we need to deal with as a board.
Point, yeah.
Oh, I wholly agree that,
Yes,
in my opinion,
yes.
not to, you know, that I don't think it's on the petitioner, but it, you know, I think we do the petitioners a disservice if we have a proposal before us and the whole purpose, one of the primary purposes for us is to approve plans for this project, and we don't have what we have before. We don't have a completed set of plans from our experts saying that this is good enough to go forward. What happens if after we deliberate here and, you know, the city engineer says, oh no, by the way, this cannot be, or something like this? Does it come back for further review for us, or is it just, you know, out of sight, out of mind? I'm just not comfortable with the fact that we're not having these plans from for our own part. And I think we do the petitioners a disservice. So with that,
No, that's a point taken, and that's what the attempt of condition 4 is to attempt to say that the city engineer has to approve the stormwater management plan. But you're right, it's better to have it ahead of time rather than trying to chase it afterwards.
If I could, Mr. Chair, it is possible that the city engineer won't approve their plan, and then they would need to change it because it's subject to approval and reasonable modification. So they are taking a risk saying, we do want to go forward, not knowing, I mean, he could require a completely different system. He would have that discretion to do that, so then they would have to address that. they would only come back to us if they wanted to eliminate that requirement, or didn't want, if he, for example, refused to approve it and they insisted they wanted to install that, they could come back to us. But he wouldn't be making recommendations on the basic matter before you, should the proposal be allowed, the four-family reconstruction. He would be limiting his comments to the drainage and whatnot.
Understanding all that, I would like to see those things before we vote in the future. Thank you, and I yield.
Thank you, Eric. Ken Antonucci.
Okay, so just again to clarify, maybe I need to just simplify it for myself. We do have a submitted plan. There is a stamped drawing with the drainage plan. The question in what Eric is looking for, I just want to make sure I understand it, is that we have the city engineer's approval prior to approving anything in the future, or at least that's a recommendation.
I'm not barking up against the fire marshal or the health board or the city engineer what they approve. What I don't have is their stamp of approval before. So I think we are in agreement there, which is what you're saying.
Okay, thanks.
I apologize, my mic was not on.
Thank you.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, so yes, you have a copy of this in your package. You have grading and drainage plan stamped by Peter Ogren, professional engineer, and you have the utilities plan that shows all the utilities. It shows the storm tech chambers, the sump pump, utility connections. So you have all that. You also have the detail sheet that shows the catch basin systems, the water trench. You have a hydrology plan as well. So you do have that. I did not give you a copy of the complete engineering stormwater management study that has all the backup data that goes with these plans. It is referenced in the report. It's dated June 27th. It's called Stormwater Management Report. It was also prepared by a professional engineer. It's stamped and signed, and this has all the information, you know, the drainage calcs, I think this is the Stormwater Management Report, it's the best practices. So this has everything. They did submit everything. I do want that clarified for the record. They submitted the materials.
Okay, that's something
that's it.
we can take up
Yes,
administratively
yes.
afterwards. Okay, no other questions then for Michelle? If I can call up Councilor Callahan, where would you propose, we definitely want something in there. Where are you proposing we would put this storage shed for the trash?
Since the barrels need to go out to the street, we propose to take Unit 2 patio, which you see on the site plan, and push that to the rear a bit and leave the landscaping, but put the shed behind the landscaping, and then, again, the patio, Unit 2's patio would be moved back by about 10 feet.
Okay, and the shrubs that are shown, those are new shrubs, so it wouldn't be,
No, we'll screen the shed for sure.
no, but we don't want to displace those shrubs that are shown there to the west of Unit 2 patio. I'm presuming that the patio is going to go between the shrubs and the tree.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to see either the shrubs or the tree removed.
Well, just to, and I'm sorry, I'm not finding north on this, so.
No, I think what he's saying is that the patio would move to the right on the plan,
Right, but where would the trash storage be between the patio?
where the patio is shown now.
So between the patio and the driveway?
Yes.
Future patio.
Right, right. So it would basically be where Unit 2 patio is being
And
shown.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we have rethought that slightly, and I think it's beneficial to everyone is to take it and put it back here, and we'll deal with getting it out to the street in this area right here.
So you're saying at the very rear of the,
Right, because we don't
Southeast.
want a patio next to a trash shed, right?
yeah, and you'll wheel them out?
Yeah.
So it'll be off of Granville Place now.
Trash pickup is off of Granville Place, right?
I don't know.
Granville Ave, I believe that Granville Place has to bring their trash out to Granville Ave.
The only concern I have with that is what happens in winter when there's snow. I mean, how practical is it gonna be to wheel 8 bins up Granville Place if there's a foot of snow there?
My client assures me his property management company is quite capable of doing that. I recognize what you're saying, but we have great confidence that we can handle the weather.
Okay, and currently the trash is stored around the parking lot off Granville Avenue? Is that accurate?
Currently, the trash is stored at the rear of the structure. Outside, at the rear of the...
Okay. Where right now it's gonna be Unit 1 patio in that area? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So would this still be a shed?
It would be a trash shed, yes.
Okay. So now we're talking about the southern, in the western, in the rear yard, adjacent to parking space 7, is that where you're thinking?
Yes, right adjacent to 7, yes.
So an accessory shed for storage of trash and recycling barrels is allowed in the rear yard adjacent to parking space 7. Is that the only place it's allowed? So we'll say may only be allowed? So that it doesn't
Yeah, at the
crop up
moment.
someplace anywhere else. Okay, may only be allowed. Okay.
And are you satisfied with the specificity of it?
Sure, if you are. Yeah.
And you're okay with that? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may, as a practitioner, can I comment for 2 minutes on the issue of the drainage and plan, if that's helpful to the board?
Yes, if you can keep it to 2 minutes.
Sure. We run into this quite often. I've never had a client have a conflict with the city engineer about the drainage plan. I think they're professionals that do their job and take stamping the plans very seriously. I think all of my clients certainly that I've had a discussion with are well aware that the city engineer may tweak it, but we've never had any significant conflict. It's not a perfect world. I understand your concern, Mr. Henry. I'm not minimizing it, but I just think we've never been able to get the engineering department's attention sufficient to have them approve it. And what I really wanted to say was I think clients accept that minor risk.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, I just want to add, it's a modification of 10. Condition 10 should say trash and recycling barrels shall be stored in an accessory shed. That way they, it's clear you want them stored in a shed, right? You don't want them left out
Right.
front? Okay. And then it will say the shed may only be allowed in the rear yard adjacent to parking space 7. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Michelle on that?
That's condition 10.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any comments or questions?
So I added 9 and 10, and we modified 5.
Yes. The only comment I'll make is I'm not real keen on the basement apartment. We typically don't want basement apartments. The one thing that's unique, I think, to this location that gets me there is the topography and the access to the windows and the egress and lighting and stuff like that. I'm a little bit more comfortable with that, but typically I don't care for basement apartments or using basements as livable space. But that's the only comment I have with regard to that. If there are no other questions or comments, is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the petition on the recommendation of staff, the 10 conditions.
Okay, so Ken's making a motion to grant approval with the 10 conditions that we altered and were included, and the 8 that were included in the staff report. You all set with that, Michelle? Is that okay?
Yeah, to grant the special permit petition with 10 conditions.
Yes. Henry Susi.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, Henry has seconded Ken's motion. If you'll give me 1 second to try to get ahead of people. Kim, Diane, Risa. Okay, Michelle, if you want to do the roll call.
Ken Antonucci,
Yes.
Diane Shuha,
Yes.
Risa Gray,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Aye.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Stephanie Stone,
Yes.
Ronnie Raj Verma,
Yes.
Chuck Iovan.
Yes, the petition has been granted with conditions. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. Let me know when you're ready, Michelle. You're all set?
I wish we did keep it above, somewhere above those stairs instead of down below. Now they're gonna go in and guys dragging those barrels up the stairs, all the way over there. Yeah, it's too far for the residents. Hate to say it, but I almost kind of wish they took one of the parking spaces somewhere and just made it like the designated fenced area for trash. Yeah.
set, Michelle? And Diane, you all set? Would you read the notice, please, Diane? The next thing on the agenda is 211, 213 Main Street. If Diane can read the notice, I would appreciate it. We can get moving. Thank you.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, on the petition of ACDC 213 Maine LLC in permit application number CMID061492-2023, seeking a special permit under Title 12, Chapter 28, Section 130, Chapter 28, Section 010D, and Chapter 12, Section 300 of the Code of the City of Malden, to allow ledge removal and alteration of grade, to allow multifamily residential dwelling use up to 3 stories inclusive of property in the Residence A zoning district, and in inclusionary development, namely to construct a building with 3 stories and a total of 20 affordable housing units at the property known as and numbered 211-213 Main Street, Malden, and by city's assessor's parcel ID number 077375503.
Thank you, Diane. And I see the council is still present. Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor.
Thank you.
There you go.
We would like to have permission from the chair to hook up our laptop to make the presentation.
Okay, yep, that's fine.
Yeah. So maybe what I'll do is, Billy, if you want to come up and do what you need to do, and I can just push to the side and do a short introduction.
And while you guys are doing that, I just remind everyone, if you speak at the podium, name and address for the record, and please sign the clipboard.
We're all signing the clipboard now. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Counselor. Go ahead.
Thomas Callahan with offices at 1 Center Street here in Malden. I'm here today very proud to represent the Asian Community Development Corporation. They do wonderful work on affordable housing, and we're thrilled, at least I'm thrilled, to have them being willing to invest in Malden. We're proposing to demolish the existing Salvation Army building, which has been vacant for several years now. And once we demolish that building, we'd construct a 20-unit residential structure with all affordable units, together with 20 parking spaces to match the 20 units to conform to the zoning. 4 units will be rented to families at 30% or less of average median income, and 16 units will be rented to families with at or below 60% of the average median income. And just for your information, our inclusionary zoning requires 50% or less to conform to the affordable requirement. So we're here tonight seeking 3 special permits. One would be for the inclusionary zoning. The second one would be to construct the new building, and the third is for some ledge removal. I was rather surprised, having driven by the site any number of times, to realize that there's quite a slope from the front to the rear, which is really hard to see from the street. But our professionals will show you that, so there will be some need for ledge removal. As far as the inclusionary zoning goes, I think the board's aware that all you need to do is find that there was compliance. And we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the city to do what we need to do in terms of compliance with that. The new construction and the ledge removal require finding that the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood and in the interest of the common good, and we firmly believe that this is a wonderful addition to the community, providing affordable, much-needed affordable housing. I'm going to turn it over to Billy Kahn, who's from the Asian Community Development Corporation, and he's going to tell you more about the organization. But also, I think what's important for you to hear from him is the outreach that the ACDC has done with the neighborhood over the past year or so, I think, which is all important to be sure everyone's well-informed and knowledgeable. And I think it's our letters of support, which, if I understand from Michelle, that we had almost 100 individual letters of support for this project from the neighbors. And I think that is a very telling factor. But I'll conclude and turn it over to Billy Kahn.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Billy Kahn. I represent Asian Community Development Corporation, 38 Oak Street in Boston, Massachusetts. Before I get started...
Mr. Khan, what's your residential address?
Oh, sorry. It's 163 Glen Street in Somerville, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
And before I get started, do I have your permission to hand out some of the slides so that you can follow along?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair. Thank you, members of the board. Firstly, I would like to introduce Asian Community Development Corporation, ACDC for short. I'm the real estate project manager at ACDC, and we are proud to say that we are a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on affordable housing. We initially started in Boston's Chinatown, but we've since expanded to places like Quincy and Malden, offering affordable housing development and home buying workshops, youth programs, cultural programming as well. In terms of the site itself, I am going to provide a little bit of site context. So 213 Main Street, as Councilor Callahan introduced, is the former Salvation Army site located on Main Street. It's about a 15-minute walk from here, from Malden Center T Station. We love this location as it's very centrally located to bus lines, obviously the Orange Line stop, and other amenities such as the Stop and Shop nearby. And before I hand it off, I also wanted to echo that as I'll get into later on in the presentation, this project is very special to us as it's our first affordable housing project in the city of Malden. It'll be 20 units of all income restricted housing that we hope that the board will find compelling. So with that, I would like to hand it off to Michael Joyce from Joyce Consulting Group, and he can tell you a little bit more about the site.
Hello, Michael Joyce with Joyce Consulting Group. Our office is at 439 Washington Street in Braintree, and our household is 100 Wyman Road in Braintree. We are the civil engineers for the project. We're a civil engineering and land surveying business, and that's what we did here. So I will briefly go over the existing conditions. There's an existing brick building, which was previously the Salvation Army on the site. It's approximately 4 feet from the property line, the front property line, running parallel to Main Street. There's a few pictures here representative of the site. Currently, it's accessed from the south side of the site. There's an existing driveway. That driveway goes up to the rear of the site, raises approximately 14 feet to parking area in the rear. That parking area in the rear is paved. And then beyond that, there is a wooded area that's vegetation, some trees and some shrub undergrowth. And the elevation continues to go up. So from the elevation at the front of the property to the rear, it's about a 21-foot change in grade. So it's a pretty substantial grade, and you can kind of see that if you drive up on the street to the north. You can see the raise in elevation that kind of follows the grade of the site. So that's kind of the existing conditions. There is no existing stormwater controls on site. It's existing brick building, existing parking in the rear, and all the utilities are accessed from Main Street. What we're proposing is a multifamily residential dwelling. It will be set back further from the street, and also the setbacks on either side will be set more into the site. The first floor will be at grade level, and then in the back, the site will be accessed from the southern side, same driveway. The majority of the parking area will be accessed from that southern driveway, with parking in the rear, which will actually be below the second floor of the proposed building. So there'll be 18 spaces in the rear, and then there'll actually be another portion of the building behind it, so it'll almost be like 2 pedestals in the parking below. And all that parking will be roughly at the same grade as the street elevation, so roughly at elevation 35, the street's at elevation 34, so that's the proposed parking, and then there'll also be a proposed driveway on the north side of the site. That driveway will be home to 2 parking spaces, and it'll also provide access to the transformer for the utility companies. We'll be maintaining an existing vegetation buffer at the rear of the site of approximately 25 feet. Now that's just, we won't be grading into that. Actually, overall, there'll be open space, as you can see in that figure, of closer to 50 feet or so of open space and vegetation. And then there'll also be additional vegetation on either side of the rear of the property and some new landscaping at the front of the building along Main Street. The proposed increase in impervious area on the site is approximately 2,100 square feet. So it's not a huge increase considering the size of the site, which is about 24,000 square feet. I should have mentioned that earlier. The proposed stormwater will be collected by rain gardens on either side of the addition in the rear, or the proposed building in the rear, and then also by deep sump catch basins in the parking area. Those deep sump catch basins and rain gardens will be directed to 28 Caltech units below surface. The locations of the Caltech chambers were selected due to the availability of soil. So there is some ledge on the site, and we worked around the ledge in order to get the infiltration areas in. As a result of the stormwater system, there'll be a decrease in runoff in the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storms from the site. And there'll also be a significant water quality volume storage on site to treat that stormwater. One of the comments that I believe we received from the city was the question of the parking area on the northern side of the site, how feasible it was. Basically, if you look at that slide called Parking Alternatives, parking spaces 19 and 20. In the first figure, that they look as shown, and we agree it may be difficult to access parking space number 19. So one of the alternatives we kind of brainstormed with today and yesterday was to push out the proposed retaining wall on the north side and provide additional space for 20 parking spaces, 20 and 19 on that northern side. So we just wanted to present that for conversation today. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Janice at Icon Architecture to present the proposed building envelope.
Thank you, Michael. Janice Mamayak, Icon Architecture, 101 Summer Street, Boston, Mass. Residential address 30 Trenton Street, Melrose. Icon is a woman-owned business in Boston of 50 professionals focused on innovative and sustainable housing. We work in collaboration with teams such as this to transform environments, whether they be downtown, rural, small towns, or neighborhoods. As you see in the slide here, our recent work at Oak Grove Village or the recently opened Radio Factory on the other side of the tracks. This first image is our proposed Building rendering, since our earlier conversations with city staff, we had moved the entry to align to the corner, so you see the corner grounding that entryway. 2 and 3 stories. Basically, it's a 2-story bar that's bridging the parking, as Mike described, with the ground floor being just that small footprint facing the public sidewalk. There's a varied roof form, varied materials that help articulate and break down the building massing and help bring that into the context of the neighborhood. The 2-story bar, like I said, bridges over the parking and then nestles into the hillside at the back. Whoops, go back. As you can see, there's an articulation of retaining walls. Here they're shown as somewhat terraced. They are above the 6 foot. There's about a 13 to 15 foot height differential from the parking area to the back area. And so terracing that and planting that with fencing towards the top. It is not intended to be accessible in that back area. This elevation, or this rendering, articulates some landscaping towards the front public street. Again, our setback is greater than the existing building now by almost double. So entry plaza and some interesting plantings are proposed there. Yeah. This was just articulating that we are within the 35-foot overall maximum height above mean grade. This is a view from the other side of Main Street, showing again terrace in the back and that other driveway. Looking at the plan from a more architectural perspective, you could see to the left by the street side, the orange areas are units. We have 2 residential accessible units proposed there. The yellow areas are circulation, a lobby, a small office, and building services, elevator and stair there, and then the back parking with a second stair exiting, discharging onto that parking area. The second and third floors are essentially equal, providing the bulk of the housing. Again, this is family housing, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. Common laundry on this floor, and then the similar plan with elevator control room and access to the rear deck that provides that outdoor space. As Mike was describing the contours, it's significantly steep, and so the deck is intended to be that level, accessible, fully accessible outdoor space for our residents. This section somewhat shows better the intent where the ground floor is to the right, Main Street's to the right, grounded, the 2 stories of residential above, bridging the parking and nestled into that parking area, and then an indication of that deck off the 3rd floor, somewhat reaching where the grade is in the back there. And with that, I'll hand it over to Matt at Bald Hill.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairperson and members of the board. My name is Matt Grosshandler with Bald Hill Builders, 25 Walpole Park South, number 10, Walpole, Mass., and I reside at 113 Norwood Street, Sharon, Mass. Bald Hill Builders is a mid-sized commercial general contractor and construction manager. We are a women-owned firm specializing in affordable housing, senior care, sustainable housing. In this instance, we've been engaged as a pre-construction manager to review things like logistics, constructability, coordination, scheduling, permitting, and so on. To that end, we've been working closely with Icon and Joyce, and of course, the Asian Community Development Center, Corp, to pull this project together. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the ledge removal, which is the focus of the application. The whole rear of the site, or a good portion of the rear of the site, does have some ledge outcropping. It also has a significant amount of ledge that will need to be cut and manipulated in order to be able to put a building on the site. In looking at the site and in considering the different means and methods, also knowing what is permitted in the city of Malden, we've chosen to go with a combination of hoe ramming and drilling and hydraulic splitting of the existing ledge. I have had some conversations already with the Deputy Chief Dockery on some of those procedures, and understand that we'll need to work more closely with Michelle, with planning, and Nelson at the building department in further consideration along that way. The reason for, there's about 120 truckloads in total of material that will need to leave the site, some of which will be split rock, some of which will be, other gravels and other materials on site. In order to accomplish this through the construction, we'll be employing all commercial methodologies, including jersey barriers, temporary fencing, dust control, noise control, things like that, working within the parameters of the local zoning and the different building regulations that are here, including work hours and so on. And we'll be working closely with the city in making sure that we've got the right permitting, police details, access in and out of the site, and everything that needs to be done to be able to build properly. Further, we'll do a precondition survey of the adjacent properties, as well as vibration monitoring to make sure that there's no damage as a result of the work, and are confident that we can accomplish this work with normal practices. I think I've covered it, unless anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Hi again, Board Chair and members of the board. I'd like to just wrap it up with some statistics and some more discussion of the program itself in the building. So we have this slide really just to say that we think that affordable housing in Malden and really the Boston area is a large issue. So we're aiming to position this building in as part of the solution to that. When Councilor Callahan was talking about the area median incomes in the neighborhood and in the building, we're talking about typically affordable housing being restricted to 80% of AMI. This building will be split among 30 and 60% AMI, and some of the statistics here, over half of the households in Malden make less than 80% AMI, and a quarter of them make less than 30% AMI. So that puts into perspective how much need there is for a building or a project like this. And to put a little bit more context into the project, these are just some income limits that are currently set by HUD for 30% AMI and 60% AMI. So you can see that a household of one would be making less than $30,000 a year for 30% AMI, and those are the people that would be living in this type of project. And so, as we said, there will be 4 units at 30% AMI, and then the remaining 16 units will be set at 60% AMI. And the unit mix is more geared towards 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, to geared towards families that really want to move in, but maybe can't afford to move into the neighborhood. So just to wrap up, we have some project highlights here. As I said, introducing 20 new affordable family housing units at those 2 AMI levels, we hope will put a dent in some of the affordability struggles that people have. But the building itself, we are committed to meeting the new energy code with fossil fuel-free systems. We're committed to getting an Enterprise Green Community certification. We hope that this building will also improve the street experience and for people, the neighbors around this area, with increased setbacks along the front and the side of the building, and the increased open space up front. As well as for the residents, they'll have an open deck at the rear of the site, and we'll have additional bike parking. We'll have 1 parking space per unit for the residents of this site. And as Councilor Callahan had mentioned, we have had 2 community meetings so far within the past year. I think one was in May, and then one was just last month. And we've had very positive feedback from the community on this project. We've had, I believe, some support letters come in from neighbors, from city councilors who are very supportive and committed to making this project happen. So we hope that the board will find that with the affordable housing on site and with the building as it's designed, it won't have any detrimental impacts to the neighborhood and that, you know, it's in the interest of the common good. And let's see, and yeah, and of course, we'll also comply with the inclusionary zoning ordinance. I think that concludes our presentation. If anybody has any questions, we would love to take them. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple, Mr. Khan. I noticed it's for 20 units, and there are 2 basement units
So,
in it, but however, in following our affordable inclusionary zoning ordinances, it would be eligible for 18 units. What's the thought process on adding the additional 2 basement units?
I would like to, I'll just go back to the ground floor plan here, or maybe the rendering would help. I don't know exactly if it's considered in the zoning as basement units. The 2 units would be at ground level, so it would be above ground, and then the remaining 2 floors above are kind of stacked on top. Because the site is so sloped from the front to the back, the 2 floors above, you know, read as the 2nd and 3rd floor on the ground, but then they go to the back where it meets the grade.
Okay, thank you. How long do you think the construction cycle will be?
So part of the affordable housing development process, we will be having to go to state funding sources. So construction probably won't start for at least another year. But once construction starts, we believe that it'll take about 16 to 18 months. And then that puts us, if we're lucky enough to be funded in this round, that puts us into 2026.
Okay, so you don't have, ACDC doesn't already have funding secured?
We do not have state funding secured. We just went this morning for the NSC Home Funds. That's a local North Suburban Consortium. So that consists of Malden and other communities around the area, so local funding. We just went before them this morning. So all indications are that we'll get the local funding, and then we'll have to go into the state funding round, which is in February.
Now, is it expected to fund 100% of the construction costs?
So it will be a large portion. So state funding will include low-income housing tax credits, both from the federal level and the state level, and then combined with a construction loan and the local funding, that will make up the majority of our funding for this project.
Okay, but so technically ACDC owns it?
Yes.
And there's a significant portion that's grants, and then you have to go to the bank for the remaining portion?
Yes, there will be a portion that will be a construction loan and then converted to a permanent loan after completion.
Okay. I was just curious how that worked. Thank you. The ledge removal, I just want to make clear, because I read a couple things in it that we should only use the hydraulic hammer, or I guess what I'm trying to say is we shouldn't be using that popping. We banned that several years ago, and I just want to make sure that folks understand that.
Yes, I can confirm. I did speak with the deputy chief about that today. I understand the city.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
I did speak with Matt Grosshandler, Balto Builders. I did speak with the deputy chief earlier today. I understand the city's position. We are prepared to move in that direction. I may ask for some consideration on some other methodologies with the proper controls in place, but assure you that we will not do anything without city approval on any of the methodologies considered.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure who should field this one. I'm presuming that the memorandum of understanding is basically, when I read it, it said that Maloney Properties is going to be handling the lottery and so they will take care of leasing up all 20 units?
Yes, that is the plan. Maloney Property has been our partner for, I don't know how long, decades, on our projects in Chinatown, and we've had great success with them managing our lease up and also for our home ownership projects, running the lottery system for those units to be sold.
And does the lottery go on in perpetuity, or at some point will ACDC be the ones administering vacancies, addressing vacancies?
Yes, so the lottery system will be just for the initial lease up. It'll open typically 3 to 6 months before construction is completed, so that we have time to verify income and make sure that people are ready to move in. After the initial lease up, then the remaining names on the list will be put on a wait list for this building specifically. And then after, when vacancies come up, participants of the wait list will be notified, and then they'll be offered the chance of verifying their income, and then, if approved, move in.
But that will be administered by ACDC?
It will be administered by Maloney as well. We'll have a long-term management contract with them. And they'll also be the property manager in charge of snow removal, trash pickup, and such.
Okay. And with some of your other programs that you're running, is it consistent that typically residents don't have more than one car?
Yeah, so this is in our other affordable housing developments. We have, I would say 4 or 5 developments in Chinatown, and I think 2 in Quincy. What we found is that the average household, not even just per bedroom, average household owns 1 car or even less. I think if I can refer to a study done in, I believe, 2019, the average affordable housing unit actually has 0.75 cars. So we don't anticipate a parking shortage on this site, and that's been our experience, and that's been the experience of people who have studied this topic.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had. Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Diane Chuha.
Yeah, I just had a question again with regards to the lottery. How are people going to know about it?
So we'll also have a part of state funding and part of even local funding. Sometimes there'll be requirements to have a marketing plan well ahead of the lottery and well ahead of even construction start. So typically what we do is, or what Maloney does, is we can publish it in the newspaper. They'll have it posted on sites like, there's a new site called Housing Navigator, which kind of lists all of the affordable housing opportunities within the state. There's also one run by the city of Boston called MetroList. So we'll publish it on all those websites. We'll publish it in the newspapers, and then as well as the various like home buying workshops or the various nonprofit agencies that we have connections with. When people come in looking for housing, we can point them to lists like that, or even the specific project if the lottery is open.
And these are rentals?
These are all rentals, yes.
Will they remain rentals, or are they going to one day become condominiums?
So these will remain rentals, and typically what happens with our funding sources is that we'll have at least a 30-year affordability covenant on them, and even typically before the 30-year covenant is even over, some of the life cycles of these buildings cause them to have a refinance. We can go back in for more tax credits and be able to renovate the building before that affordability term is over, and then we can renew that term. So a lot of these buildings end up being really affordable in perpetuity, or at least close to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Stephanie.
Would the affordability covenant apply to anyone that purchases, a future owner?
So you're talking for this project specifically, or?
Yep.
So this project won't have any homeownership. We won't have any, are you saying?
For the property owner.
For the property owner. So our position is that we aim to own our properties long-term. We're not in the business of selling it right after. But even if we did sell it to another company or nonprofit, the affordability terms are stuck to the units. So they will have to be, they will have to remain affordable.
Okay. Can I ask about the parking too?
Yes.
Are both driveways, does it connect essentially under the building, or is it only one way?
No, so the two driveways do not connect. We will have a staircase on the kind of the plan north here, right next to the transformer. They'll have a staircase for pedestrians to walk up and down, but the two driveways do not connect for vehicular access.
Okay, so the parking spaces 19 and 20 would just be, they would go in on that little side drive and that's it?
Yes.
Okay, and there's what else, there's a stairwell there and the transformer?
Yes.
So really nothing else there for the cars to?
Yeah, there will be nothing else. There will be a retaining wall along the plan north edge of this plan.
Okay. And with the two options for where the parking would go, what would be the considerations between the two?
I think the main consideration for the two alternates that we have, or the current layout versus the alternate, would be maneuverability, but also because that's the location of the transformer, I think that'll be up to, I believe it's National Grid, what their access requirements to that transformer will be. So if they require increased access, we will have to switch to probably alternate layout one.
And would either one be better in terms of definitely trying to get out of there? You'd probably want to be facing Main Street instead of trying to back out?
Yeah, I think the issue with the current layout is that I think cars would have to back out. With alternate layout one, there might be some room for maneuverability, but I think most of the time they would be backing out.
Right, yeah, do you foresee, any safety measures in terms of that, like mirrors or flashing lights or anything for pedestrians and other cars?
I don't know if we've discussed it yet, but that could definitely be a consideration that we can put on that driveway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick Hayes.
Thank you. The lottery, is the lottery open to applicants outside of Malden, or is it restricted to Malden residents?
Yeah, so I think due to fair housing laws, there are federal fair housing laws, we can't restrict it to a specific, I would say like municipality or neighborhood. Sometimes there are preferences for residents or people who work in a specific neighborhood like Malden. So I think that's something that we'll have to hash out when we create our marketing plan. But typically what I've seen are preferences and not restrictions.
Thank you.
Ken Antonucci.
Hi, I just had a question on the funding again. You had mentioned state funding. Are there multiple different grants or income sources you're looking for the state?
Yeah, so the state has really a lot of different grants and 0% loan opportunities that we typically pursue. So when we go in February for state funding, the major one are those tax credits, and then there are a couple of what we call soft sources where the grants or the loans are forgiven after a certain period of time. So we don't have an exact list of grants that we're pursuing. Typically, it's a conversation with the state staff on what works best for this site. Initially, I can say that we are targeting some of their funds that target transit-oriented development, which is another reason why we are excited about this site, and we don't think parking shortages will be a problem at this location due to its proximity to the Orange Line and bus routes.
Okay, and a couple more questions. So there's the state funding, Then you mentioned local funding
Yes.
as well. What sources of local funding are you?
Yeah,
And
so-
local, define local, in Malden?
Yeah, so this morning we went to the North Suburban Consortium, which is a consortium made up of a few different communities. I believe in the North Shore, there's Malden, I know there's Medford in there. I think it's 8 different communities that make up that board. So we requested funding from them, and then we will request a little bit more from the City of Malden Affordable Housing Trust as well.
And as far as the city of Malden goes, and actually, Eric, you could probably speak to this, will you be going for some community preservation funds, or, and whether that's, you know, applicable, or I think the CPA funds the community, the affordable housing in Malden, right? So I'm just wondering if you're aware of that, that source of grant money. So, yeah, you'll follow up on that.
Are you all set?
Yeah, no, yeah, but I just had one other question before that is, what is the
Go ahead, Eric, why
what
don't
is?
you respond while it's all germane here?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, it's all, it is CPA funds and stuff, and they are actually, the CPC, Malden CPC is actually in the midst of a year-long project where we've allocated 100% of our housing resources directly to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So, you know, to say all that facility must remain affordable in perpetuity. You know, 30 year you have to release that, okay, so I think, is that kind of get to where you were going there?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they were aware of it and see if that was one of the
Yeah, I was
local
going to ask
sources.
about, the local sources myself.
And then just one last is, what, maybe I missed this, but what is your budget? I mean, do you have a budget for this project?
Yeah, so, and that's part of what we have Balto Builders on for. They've provided some preliminary construction pricing for this, and then there are, you know, soft costs related to the financing and, you know, the lease up of the building afterwards. So right now, we're looking at about $14 million for the entire project. So as I said, that will be funded mainly by tax credits, state funding, and then the local funding as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Eric Henry.
Yes, thanks again, Mr. Chair. Kind of address some of the things. So yeah, CPA or CPC funding is local, and as well as inclusive zoning revenue is local funding. When you I think it was slide 21, you were talking about AMI, you know, and you say that ACDC deals has projects in Boston, Quincy, and now we're attempting to come into Malden. Yep. Are you using an AMI based upon Malden, or are you actually using AMI for these figures?
Yeah, so these AMI levels are set by HUD. So that's typically what we use in our state funding applications, in many local funding applications. When they say AMI, they are using the levels set by HUD. And unfortunately, the AMI levels are not granular enough to distinguish between exact municipalities or cities or towns. And so these AMI levels actually are the same, I believe, for Malden and Boston. So it's the greater Boston area.
AMI, in my opinion, my understanding, AMI is, the calculus includes Boston in there. So an AMI that represents someplace in Boston would be significantly higher than opposed to an average median income for a resident in Malden. So I guess the gist of my question is, granted that this is AMI for the greater Boston area, would you guys are actually considering, do you put that granularity in your calculations with regards when you move out to Quincy? Because I'm assuming that the income base and the housing base and level of income in Quincy is lower than it is in Malden, well, I know that Malden is lower than it is in Boston as well. So but you're going with HUD, AMI figures, and you know, that is what it is.
Yeah, and personally, on personal note, I agree with the point being made that, you know, AMI should be a little bit more localized, especially for metropolitan areas, such as, you know, the greater Boston area. Part of it is that with state funding sources, that's where they use the AMI levels. So when we go into our state funding rounds, when we have conversations with the state funding staff, it's we could present, you know, more data on, you know, granular level of, you know, Malden residents, but these are ultimately what is set in the document and what is set for lease up and the lottery.
Yeah, understood. So again, Malden's AMIs, that data you don't have to work, that's readily available in somewhere in the city. They already have those numbers crunched from the city work there and stuff. So does ACDC, do you guys have any projects where you actually if you were to take this project, Salvation Army, and then turn it into actual home ownership, do you actually have any projects where you're using CPA or CPC funds or inclusive zoning funds, and you're actually allocating those resources to home ownership as opposed to rental units?
Yeah, so not in Malden. As I said, this is our first project in Malden, but in Boston, actually the first picture that I showed where I was introducing ACDC, that building in the middle is actually 51 affordable home ownership units right in Chinatown. If you drive by the Chinatown gate onto that ramp, onto I-93 and I-90, you'll see it on your right side. So that building is actually part of what we call One Greenway. So this building is 51 home ownership units. Across the park in the middle there is actually 95 affordable rental units. So we do home ownership units, we do rental units. Home ownership requires a lot more, I would say, risk and resources, as you may know. So while we are trying to gear up, you know, for more homeownership opportunities, I think that's why you'll see that affordable housing, a lot of it is rental based. Yeah,
but you know, it's a two-part tenet of CPC and CPA funding is that, you know, for housing stock and things of this nature, as your proposal is going forward for rental units, and it is the other half of home ownership. And, you know, I'd just like to say for the record, from what I've been able to see, the city hasn't probably funded anything. They've probably funded, this is not specifically for ACDC, but the city has not done a lot of funding they may have done some affordable housing projects and for rental units, but as far as home ownership, in accordance with CPC and CPA funding, non-existent probably since the 90s. And I think that is something that the city of Malden should try to do a bit better at in getting our residents into home ownership for that tax base. So let me check my list twice. Thank you, sir. I'm good for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Does there anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Michelle, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask a couple questions. Just want to make sure I understand. So the parking layout in the northern driveway may need to be modified But you're saying that would be for access to the transformer, or because the transformer may be relocated?
I think that would be a question of when we make contact with National Grid. If the transformer can stay in its current place, I think that would be preferred. But I think that's a question of when we can get those answers from National Grid.
Okay, but that's the only parking you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, because we want to make sure we put a condition in there that would allow modification of that parking so that you won't have to come back. Because if the special permit's granted, it will be the plans that you presented would be approved.
Yeah.
So what about bicycle parking? Are you planning to provide any? And if so, where?
Yes, we have on the page that says proposed ground floor plan, we will have a bike loop up front near the entryway that is for residents or visitors for 2 bikes. And then we have a dedicated room near the rear staircase for at least 8 bikes there.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes, I did see you did have bike parking. My question was how many bikes, so you just answered. So what's the total bicycle parking on site?
It would be 10.
10, okay, thank you. I thought I had seen it, but then I blanked out here, so, okay. Thank you. In terms of ledge removal, usually the board would specify what type of ledge removal is allowed. It wouldn't be, as the engineer or the contractor said, left up to the city. So we would, need to specify that. I know the original geotech said blasting, and that's definitely not gonna be, and then we moved to, when I asked you about that, you specified some other, this hydraulic hammer, hole ramming, then you listed the drilling and popping, which is the pouring, expanding concrete or grout into drilled holes. So that's not allowed. But I guess we want to make sure we put in here, if the board wants to keep up with its what it typically does, which is specifies how ledge can be removed, I would say the hole ramming, which is the hydraulic hammering, and then I think I also heard the hydraulic splitting, but I would recommend that you do specify so that it's not left up to anybody's discretion what ends up going on at that site.
If it pleases the board, I can just explain real quickly on the drilling and hydraulic splitting. The way that works is you drill typically 2-inch holes, and then there's a hydraulic piston that drops into the hole, and then through air pressure would then spread that opening out, causing the stone to fail. That would be done in a manned, supervised environment using hydraulic equipment, and so that would be supervised at all times, and it's relatively, it's obviously destructive to the stone, but it's relatively safe and easy to control as far as that goes. So the hydraulic hammering or hole ramming, and the second means being the drilling and the hydraulic splitting would be appreciated. Beyond that, obviously up to your discretion, to the extent you wanted to put something in there, or subject to special permit issuance by the city or something along those lines. I would appreciate it. I wouldn't say it's not necessarily necessary, and we can move forward with these other 2 methodologies. I think, as I understood the way some of the other systems were described to me today, is that there may not have been the greatest care done in their implementation, and the reason I'd like to be able to leave it open for a permit is that, to the extent we're able to demonstrate success and successful history of being able to use some other methods and be able to employ certain protections, I'd like them to at least be considered and not ruled out.
Okay, and then the other thing I just wanted to mention in terms of comments, and we can get to this when we get to the conditions. There were several conditions that were not listed here that we typically do put on the ledge removal special permits that have to do with delivering written notice. That's actually a required condition. The other two have to do with hours of operation and the pre-start of work meeting. So we can get to those, although I did want to ask, so that you'll have a point to start the discussion. What would your proposed hours of operation for ledge removal be? This would include construction equipment operated for ledge removal or site grading. Do you have a proposed schedule? Because the board typically puts in specific hours of operation.
I suppose I haven't really considered it, but I would ask the same hours of operation as regular construction, 7 to 6 or something like that, 7 to 5. I apologize, I don't know the noise ordinance off the top of my head, nor the construction hours from the building department yet.
Yeah, they typically don't go along with that, which is why they put in the specific hours. You typically, the last special permits you issued were 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I can look up the other hours though, but it definitely, I don't think you've ever issued, the reason you put the special hours in is so that it doesn't, defer back to the city ordinance. So, if you don't put the hours in, it will go back to that. And I will tell you what that is, which is hours, commercial construction is 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that's typically not, and then mechanical noise, so you have two different things here. Mechanical noise would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you don't specify hours of operation, mechanical equipment will be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the commercial construction, excluding excavation, is 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. That you don't usually restrict, but the hours, mechanical, usually you state, any ledge removal, any construction equipment operated for ledge removal or site grading prep. So that's including things like starting up the trucks to get ready. So I'm just mentioning that.
My
It's not a
preference,
question, but yeah.
to the extent that I can make any recommendation, to the extent we could keep it, like an 8 to 5 or even 8 to 4 or something along those lines, would at least give us the ability to have an 8-hour day out of the equipment.
Michelle.
Hold on, Eric Henry's ahead of you. Eric Henry.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I guess it's probably more to Michelle. Maybe I picked up on this that as it relates to the ledge and the removal of blasting, the butters have not been notified with regards to this yet?
Abutters received notice of this public hearing.
Yes.
I believe they also did community meetings, but they can speak about that. But I can tell you all abutters, all properties within 500 feet, all owners of properties, I should say, received the notice. The ordinance requires pre-ledge removal survey of all buildings within 500 feet. Or they have to prove they contacted the people and they refused the survey. So that will also go to property owners. But the notice requirement for hours of operation or hours of activity is something else. That's delivering written notice to all properties within 500 feet. So not the property owner, but the person that lives there. So actually going to the property within 500 feet, indicating dates of ledge removal and hours. And then they give us a copy of the notice that they submitted. Typically, that's done by hand. They could mail it if they wanted. The problem is, like I said, they wouldn't be able to use the same abutters address list because that, in many cases, goes to property owners, not residents. This notice requirement is to the residents, or occupants, I should say. So they have not been notified yet because it hasn't been approved.
Okay, so the notification will
be before they start work.
Okay.
They would send a notice that says, we're going to begin ledge removal on November 1st or, December 1st. It'll go from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for 6 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened because you haven't granted the permit yet, right?
I don't know, I vaguely remember seeing cases, petitioners come before us and, they've contacted their residents, the within 300 to 500 feet or whatever the case may be of the property line, and that has already occurred while they present.
Well, for the special permit, the city, we mailed the notices to everybody within 500 feet. That's a requirement for you to hold this hearing. They had to publish in the newspaper, and the city, 2 weeks in advance of this hearing, had to mail notices to all properties within 500 feet, all property owners of properties within 500 feet. We did that. Yes, that is true. You're remembering that correctly.
Okay.
If I may make a comment, at our last community meeting, we did include ledge removal plans, or at least some of the bullet point lists, including how much ledge we're removing, and how many, how long it's going to take in that community meeting. And I know that one of the participants that came to the meeting was actually the direct abutter when you look at the site to the right. So the owner of that site actually came out and heard our ledge removal plans.
Okay, thank you. You all set,
Thank
Eric?
you. Yes, I am.
Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just, Michelle, the hours that you quoted, is that Monday through Friday? Is there a moratorium on Saturdays, or is it different hours for Saturdays? Or?
Construction work is Monday through Saturday. I think this is Monday through Saturday, which is why you would typically specify Monday through Friday.
Okay, thank you.
So I think this is Monday through Saturday, so if you don't want it to be Saturdays, I think you need to specify that.
Yep.
Even if you were okay with those same hours, you should still specify if you want to change the days.
If it pleases the board, just a couple quick reactions to Michelle's comments. The written notice seems reasonable. What I would suggest, 500 feet is typically for blasting. Usually for hammering, it's 100 feet, if you would consider that. Additionally, pre-construction meetings, 100%, we'd be happy to host those, as well as do neighborhood communications, not even just for this, but as construction progresses, we'll do the same thing for steel deliveries or concrete deliveries and other, keeping the neighbors happy is an important part of being a successful urban builder. And that's, all of our work is in tight residential neighborhoods. So you'll find that we have a very robust communication plan. But I would suggest that 500 feet is a very, very broad audience for hammering.
But that's our ordinance.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Ken, are you all set?
Yes.
Any other questions? Michelle, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, no other questions. Is there anything else you would like to add to the presentation?
No, there's nothing I'd like to add. I just want to thank you for your time.
Very good, thank you very much. At this time, we'll entertain anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone speak in favor? Diane, do you have anything to read in favor?
Okay, they have a letter dated October 10th, 2023. It says, Dear Chairman Iovan and Planning Board members, I write in strong support of the Asian Community Development Corporation's ACDC petition seeking a special permit and ledge removal for the development of the former Salvation Army site located at 213 Main Street. The site currently consists of a single-story building, formerly used for community, social services, and offices. ACDC proposes to demolish the existing building, remove ledge, and construct a 3-story multifamily residential dwelling consisting of 20 affordable housing units. It is important to mention that the level of affordability in this project for households with incomes ranging from 30% to 60% AMI will help contribute to the stabilizing Malden's housing needs. It also ensures a higher level of socioeconomic diversity by providing opportunities for low and moderate income households to access housing while offering the economic and social benefits of being centrally located near Malden Center's jobs, services, and transit. The proposed multifamily use is allowed by special permit in the zoning district, and the violation to the dimensional controls and parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. The project does not conflict with surrounding land uses, has limited effects on traffic, and will greatly enhance the underutilized parcel of land. In addition, it presents an excellent opportunity to apply Malden's exclusionary zoning ordinances and address the current housing needs of the community. Again, I believe that the ACDC's proposal for 213 Main Street will strongly benefit our community, and I respectfully request that the board look favorably on this petition. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Gary Christensen, Mayor, City of Malden. I have a letter dated September 26, 2023. It's addressed to dear Mr. Iovan and Planning Board members. I am writing this letter to express my immense support for the Asian Community Development Corporation, ACDC, and their proposed development of the former Salvation Army site. This project, aimed at providing 100% affordable housing, holds great promise in addressing the pressing issue of securing affordable housing for the residents of Malden. Malden, like many other cities, is faced with a growing housing crisis. The lack of affordable housing options has created immense hardship for countless individuals and families, leaving them struggling to make ends meet and often forcing them to compromise on their basic needs. The ACDC's commitment to developing affordable housing is a commendable initiative that will significantly alleviate the burden of Malden's residents. Furthermore, the redevelopment of the former Salvation Army site will not only provide affordable housing opportunities, but also transform the area into a safe and vibrant community space. The current state of the site, which has become an underutilized dumping ground for trash and unwanted home goods, poses numerous risks to public health and safety. The proposal to improve the site for pedestrian use will not only beautify the area, but also enhance accessibility, creating an inclusive environment for all community members. I firmly believe that the ACDC's redevelopment project will have far-reaching positive impacts on the city of Malden. By investing in affordable housing, we are investing in the well-being of our community. This development offers hope and assistance to the underserved population, granting them access to secure and affordable housing options that they so desperately need. As a resident of Malden, I am proud to lend my full support to this redevelopment project. I am confident that this initiative will bring about lasting change and provide invaluable aid to those who are in need. I eagerly look forward to witnessing the positive transformation of the former Salvation Army site and the profound impact it will have on the lives of Malden residents. In conclusion, the ACDC's redevelopment of the former Salvation Army site is an essential step towards securing affordable housing for the underserved population of Malden. This project not only addresses the pressing housing crisis, but also aims to enhance the overall community by revitalizing a derelict site. I wholeheartedly support this development at its noble mission, and I eagerly anticipate the positive outcomes it will bring to the city of Malden. Respectfully, Greg Spatafora, Councilor at Large. This letter dated October 11, 2023. Dear Ms. Romero, I would like to express my full support for Asian Community Development Corporation's ACDC special permit and ledge removal application for the development of the former Salvation Army site at 213 Main Street to create a 100% affordable housing development with 20 new residential units. The rapidly escalating cost of housing poses a serious threat to the future of our community, which has long prized itself in our diverse neighborhoods where people of many backgrounds and income levels can thrive. Current residents are being priced out. Many cannot afford their basic necessities, and the waiting list for income-restricted units is often years long. The proposed 213 Main Street project will provide much-needed affordable housing units to the city of Malden. It is keeping with the neighborhood and the Main Street corridor. In addition to the benefits to the future residents of this project, 213 Main Street will introduce an improved street experience for pedestrians on Main Street and a newly developed, professionally managed and clean residential building. I am excited that this project is achieving affordability for households with income ranging from 30% to 60% AMI. This is very difficult to do, and the city has invested significant resources in this project's success. These units will play an important role in stabilizing Malden's urgent housing needs by providing opportunities for low and moderate income households. The project will provide access to housing with the precious economic and social benefits of being centrally located in Malden Center's jobs, services, and transit. It is an almost ideal project for our community. As an elected representative, I know how important 213 Main Street is and its affordability component is to the community. This project is an essential step in addressing the lack of housing affordability in the city of Malden. It is an excellent opportunity to demonstrate how our new inclusionary zoning ordinance helps us better utilize the site for housing while benefiting the neighborhood and limiting the effects of traffic and impact on the rest of the city. I further note that this also includes the IZ's required performance for local applicants. I have tremendous appreciation for the professionalism and care that the Asian CDC has shown in managing this project. They are excellent partners to work with. I ask the Planning Board to honor that partnership and community outreach, which has already taken place, to approve this permit with minimal additional requirements. I note that this is very difficult to get truly affordable projects like this built because of the cost. The overriding need of the housing in Malden should be carefully weighed against the cost of any conditions which could put the project at risk. As proposed, I believe that ACDC's proposal of 213 Main Street will strongly benefit all stakeholders in the city of Malden and make better use of the underutilized parcel of land. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Carrie McDonald, Malden City Council at Large. Another letter dated October 11th, 2023. Dear Ms. Romero, Chairman Iovan, and members of the Malden Planning Board, I would like to express my strong support for the Asian Community Development Corporation's special permit and ledge removal application for the development of the former Salvation Army site at 213 Main Street into a 100% affordable housing development with 20 new residential units. The level of affordability in this project for households with incomes ranging from 30 to 60% AMI will help contribute to stabilizing the city's housing needs and ensure a higher level of socioeconomic diversity in the city of Malden by providing opportunities for low and moderate income households to access housing, as well as the economic and social benefits of being centrally located in Malden Center's jobs, services, and transit. An element that is always important to me is neighborhood engagement. So far, we have had 2 community meetings to ensure the petitioner is responsive to the neighborhood's questions, concerns, and ideas. If the petitioner is successful in getting the special permit, I will be sure that the neighborhood is informed every step of the way and there is a mechanism in place for a communication loop and to address any issues that may come up. I mention this because it was brought up at the community meeting to make sure there are someone neighbors can reach out to if needed. I recognize that not everyone is going to be on board with this development. However, I strongly believe that the benefits of having affordable housing for our lowest wage earners is a better use for this underutilized parcel of land. I believe this project will improve the site of the street experience for pedestrians on Main Street and with a newly developed, professionally managed and cleaned residential building. I believe that ACDC's proposal on 213 Main Street will strongly benefit all stakeholders. Finally, I believe the petitioner meets the findings required to grant a special permit and support the conditions outlined in the staff report. Thank you for consideration. If you require different information, please feel free to contact me. Respectfully submitted, Peg Crow, Ward 1 City Councilor. Letter dated September 23rd. Dear members of the Malden Planning Board, I'm writing to express my wholehearted support for the proposed 20 affordable apartment project located at 213 Main Street in Malden. As a representative of United Properties, Inc., a real estate development company that recently received approval for a 33 apartment project at the former E.E. Burns Funeral Home located at 204 Main Street, I have a keen understanding of the housing needs in our community. Malden is currently facing a significant shortage of both affordable and market-priced apartments. This shortage has placed a considerable burden on many residents who are struggling to find suitable housing options within their budget. The proposed 20 affordable apartments project at 214 Main Street offers a much-needed solution to address this issue. Affordable housing initiatives like this one not only provide comfortable and safe living spaces for our community members, but also contributes to the overall well-being and growth of Malden. They help attract individuals and families to our city, promote economic stability, and enhance the quality of life for all residents. I kindly urge the Malden Planning Board to consider the broader benefits of the project for our community and to grant the necessary approvals for its development. By doing so, you will not only fulfill a critical housing need, but also contribute to the continued progress and prosperity of our city. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Respectfully, Andreas Titos, President of United Properties, Inc. Letter dated October 7th, 2023. Dear Michelle, we are writing to support the intent of the affordable housing development being planned for 213 Main Street. I reached out through ClearGov to inquire about rodent issues as well as to ask about options to save mature trees around the periphery of the property. We appreciate the quick and detailed responses received from both Alex Pratt for the city and Angie and Billy from the ACDC team. In our humble opinion, the city has worked diligently to provide more housing and services to those in need than most abutting cities. Indeed, in the block around us exists a long-standing homeless house on Charles Street, as well as new single-family units being built on Eastern Ave at the Bread of Life site. We provide homeless shelters and services in one motel on Broadway, and most recently we have taken in new immigrant families at another motel. This proposed 20 affordable units sounds like a lot for the size of the property, but we trust the city's officials in working with the developers ensure this isn't being overbuilt, as well as to aggressively initiate rodent control and property protection during demolition, since neighboring homes so closely surround the project. In closing, we'd like to say good for Malden for continuing to step up to help alleviate a countrywide epidemic and the need for affordable housing. Sincerely, Eleanor and Dana Cushing. Okay, we have, it doesn't have a date on this one, but it says, Dear Ms. Romero, I would like to express my strong support for Asian Community Development Corporation's, ACDC, special permit and ledge removal applications for the development of the former Salvation site at 213 Main Street into a 100% affordable housing development with 20 new residential units. The proposed project will provide much-needed affordable housing units to the city of Malden and better utilize this parcel for neighborhood use. The level of affordability in this project for households with incomes ranging from 30% to 60% AMI will help contribute to the stabilizing the city's housing needs and ensure a higher level of socioeconomic diversity in the city of Malden, providing opportunities for low and moderate income households to access housing, as well as the economic and social benefits of being centrally located near Malden centers, jobs, services, and transits. As a resident of the city of Malden, I am excited to, as a resident / stakeholder of the city of Malden, I am excited to see the city of Malden support this project and promote the development of the new affordable housing. I am particularly enthusiastic about 213 Main Street's extraordinary efforts to ensure that 100% of the 20 units are income restricted. I also wish to fully support the efforts to add density and utilize the site beyond its former use as a one-story commercial building along the street. I believe that this project will transform what is now a vacant commercial building into a vibrant, affordable residential development for Malden, which I believe is a benefit to the fellow residents and stakeholders of this city and a better use of the land. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Karen Lynch. Okay, I'm sorry. So Karen Lynch was 24 Garden Street, Malden, Mass.
Was there one on the last one too, just for the record?
No, Eleanor Cushing one? There's no one. Oh, above, I'm sorry, 20 Gould Ave, Malden. Sorry about that, I didn't see that. Okay, another letter is dated September 30th. It says, Dear Ms. Romero, I would like to express my strong support for Asian Community Development Corporation's, ACDC, special permit and ledge removal application for the development of the former Salvation Army site at 213 Main Street into a 100% affordable housing development with 20 new residential units. The proposed project will provide much-needed affordable housing units to the city of Malden and better utilize this parcel for neighborhood use. The level of affordability in this project for households with incomes ranging from 30% to 60% AMI will help contribute to stabilizing the city's housing needs and ensure a higher level of socioeconomic diversity in the city of Malden by providing opportunities for low and moderate income households to access housing, as well as the economic and social benefits of being centrally located in Malden Center, jobs, transit, services, and transit. As a working class resident of the city of Malden, I am excited to see the city of Malden support this project and promote the development of new affordable housing. I am particularly enthusiastic about 213 Main Street's extraordinary efforts to ensure that 100% of the 20 units are income restricted. I also wish to fully support the efforts to add density and utilize the site beyond its former use as a one-story commercial building along the street. I believe that this project will transform what is now a vacant commercial building into a vibrant, affordable residential development for Malden, which I believe is a benefit to the fellow residents and stakeholders of the city and a better use of the land. Thank you for your cooperation. Sincerely, Marlene Souffrance Vital at 77 Alden Street. With this letter came an additional 93 or 92? 92. The letters are all the same. We got one from Alden Street, one from Anderson Way, one from Appleton, one from Arcola Street, one from Barrett Street, one from Barstow Street, one from Bryant Street, one from Charles Street, one from Clement Street, 4 from Clifton Street, 1 from Coburn Street, 2 from Coleman Street, 1 from Columbia Street, 1 from Cottage Place, 1 from Dutton Street, 2 from Emerald Street, 1 from Forest Street, 1 from Fulton Street, 1 from Garfield Terrace, 1 from Glenwood Street, 1 from Gilbert Street, 1 from Gould Ave, 3 from Highland Avenue, 3 from Hubbard Street, 1 from Hunting, 2 from Judson Street, 2 from Kimball Street, 1 from Nealon Street, 1 from Lake Street, 1 from Linwood Street, 1 from Lodgton Court, 2 from Main Street, 1 from Malden Street, 1 from Medford Street, 3 from Mill Street, 1 from Mount Vernon Street, 1 from Newland Street, 1 from Oliver Street, 1 from Pamela Circle, 4 from Pearl Street, 1 from Perkins Ave, 1 from Pierce Street, 3 from Plainfield Ave, 4 from Pleasant Street, 3 from Presley Street, 1 from Regent Road, 1 from Russell Street, 1 from Salem Street, 1 from School Street, 1 from Springdale Street, 1 from Starbird Street, 3 from Summer Street, 1 from Timothy Lane, 1 from Tremont Street, 1 from Vining Street, 1 from Waite Street, 3 from Wallace Circle, 1 from Walnut Street, 1 from Washington Street, 1 from Waverly Street, 1 from Welch Street, 1 from Wentworth Street, 1 from West Street, 1 from Woodfield Terrace, and 1 from Wyoming Avenue. And that's it.
That's it. Thank you, Diane. I will ask again then if there is anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone speak in opposition? Seeing and hearing, Diane, anything to read in opposition?
No, I do not.
Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, do you have anything to read in general?
I have 3 letters. I'm not going to read them verbatim, or at least not all of them. I just want to make sure you have, it's entered into the record. We have a letter dated October 11th, 2023. It is from Aaron Thompson, the Housing Program Coordinator from the city's Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development. That is what's known as the compliance letter. This details, it's addressed to the board, and this details their review of the application for the special permit under the inclusionary zoning ordinance, and it's known as a compliance letter or compliance memorandum, so it goes through how they comply with all the provisions of the ordinance. Attached to that is the memorandum of understanding that's referenced in that letter for the inclusionary zoning components that will be complied with at a future date. That's dated August 14th, 2023. It was signed by the developer, Asian Community Development Corporation has not yet been signed by the city. Also, so that's one letter I'm referencing, incorporated herein by reference. Also want to go through, there's a letter, a memorandum dated October 11, 2023 from Yem Lip, city engineer. And you all have a copy of that as well. And this is regarding his review of the site plan and stormwater report. Do you want me to read that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it reads, I have reviewed both the stormwater and site plan submittal applications for the above referenced project and offer the following site plan review comments followed by stormwater comments. 1, provide planting tree schedule with species type and diameter caliper size. Provide dig safe markings for all underground utilities, prior to field layout of plantings. 2, provide additional plan to show the extent of temporary taking of roads and sidewalk for staging area during construction. 3 is a question, will LED lights be utilized for lighting? 4, accessible parking spaces shall comply with 520 CMR 23. Van accessible spaces shall comply with 521 CMR 23.04.07. 8-foot access aisle should be provided for designated van accessible spaces. 5, driveways shall slope up from the gutter at a grade of 5% to 15% until it is even with the sidewalk or adjacent ground if there be no sidewalk. Damaged sidewalk within public right-of-way shall be removed and replaced. Proponent shall obtain curb cut driveway permit with DPW commission. 6, all existing abandoned water, sewer, and drain lateral connections shall be cut and capped at the main lines. 7, proponent to obtain Road cut trench permit from DPW prior to any excavation work. Road cut shall be complete and patched with hot mixed asphalt. It then reads, I have reviewed the stormwater permit application for the above referenced project and offer the following stormwater permit review comments. 1, the applicant shall arrange with the city engineer for scheduling the following inspections, or shall have a qualified third party as determined by the city engineer perform the inspections and submit a detailed report as to their findings. A, initial inspection prior to approval of any plan. This will include inspection of on-site soil investigation testing. B, erosion control inspections after site clearing, rough grading, and final grading to ensure erosion control practices are in accord with the plan. C, inspection prior to backfilling of any underground drainage or stormwater conveyance structures. And D, final inspection when all work, including construction of stormwater management facilities and landscaping, have been completed. 2, the applicant shall provide project timing schedules and sequence of development, including clearing, stripping, rough grading, construction, final grading, and vegetative stabilization. And 3, as-built plans provide CAD and PDF copy of as-built of sanitary sewer and storm drain system, including engineer certification of detention leaching basin once site work is completed. If you have any questions on the above comments or would like to discuss this further, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. And then finally, I also want to reference another letter that you have in your package. I won't read this verbatim, but I'll want it referenced and incorporated here and by reference to the record. It's a letter dated October 5th, 2023. It's regarding the traffic peer review for the proposed residential development at 213 Main Street. And it is from Kenneth J. Petralia, our engineer, traffic engineer, professional engineer. And you should have a copy of that. It includes recommendations and requests for information.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Can you take us through your staff report and recommendation?
So this is a planning report and recommendation dated October 11th, 2023. I will not read it verbatim into the record. It's incorporated here and by reference into the record. So we heard about the location of the property. I've given you the breakdown. Excuse me. This is based on the plans, so these are the unit counts, bedroom counts that were shown on the plans, as well as the common areas. Given you a listing here of the plans and information submitted in support of the petition. You have copies of these plans, and you also have a copy of the foundation engineering report, which contains the geotechnical information. Also submitted, which you do not have a copy of, is the stormwater management report and the transportation impact assessment. You do, however, have a copy of this memorandum regarding ledge removal and open space supplemental information. That's a one-page document submitted by petitioner. In terms of zoning and occupancy, the subject property is located in the Residence A zoning district. The most recent use for a religious facility was allowed by right in this district. The proposed multifamily dwelling use up to 3 stories inclusive is prohibited in the zoning district, however, may be allowed by special permit as a residential conversion of a pre-existing non-conforming property. The direct abutters to the north are single and two-family dwellings, to the east, a single-family dwelling, and to the south, 2- and 3-family dwellings. To the west, on the other side of Main Street, is a neighborhood business zoning district, general offices, and medical center used for dental offices. Surrounding land uses are residential, business, and Bell Rock Park. In terms of dimensional controls, the existing building violates current dimensional controls for front yard setback, both side yard setbacks. It's considered a pre-existing non-conforming property. The proposal does comply with all dimensional controls for multifamily dwellings up to 3 stories, except front yard setback, building coverage, and density. It includes use of the density bonus provision. New or increased nonconformities may be allowed by special permit. Giving you the breakdown here of the front yard setbacks, requirement, building coverage, violation, and then the density. In terms of the breakdown for density, so the lot, according to dimensional controls for multifamily dwellings, this size property could support 15 units. Under the density bonus provisions of the inclusionary zoning, they can build 1 additional unit per required affordable housing unit. 3 units of affordable housing are required, so that brings their total up to 18. To build the project with 20 units, this board needs to provide relief under the special permit. You can do that if you are able to make the finding that the proposed violation would not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. In terms of open space, the proposal provides more than the required amount of open space. However, not all areas proposed and depicted comply with the requirements. Giving you the breakdown here, where the open space is located, details about it. Petitioner has already walked you through all of this. In terms of retaining walls, the maximum height allowed is 6 feet. Again, nonconformities created by the proposal may be allowed by special permit if you make the finding that the violations are not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So that, listing here the retaining walls and the heights based on what was shown on the plans. Fall protection screening is proposed and depicted on 2 of the walls. Parking requirements for the proposed 20 affordable housing units, 1 space per unit is required. Under the proposal, 20 parking spaces are being provided. Giving you the location and breakdown, which they've already walked you through on the plans. Access driveways, there will be 2 for the parking. And bicycle parking, so bicycle parking for 2 is required. They are providing bicycle parking for 10. Landscaping, snow storage. Screening, trash, I've listed here. No dumpsters proposed or recommended. There is a proposed screened trash storage area outside and a room on the first floor for overflow trash recycling. In terms of traffic impact, the proposal did require a traffic impact study per your rules and procedures. We do have the peer review in the report dated October 5th, 2023 from Kenneth Petralia. The following traffic and safety mitigation are recommended for the developer. 1, provide signs and markings that comply with the Federal Highways Administration Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways, 2009 edition, revised effective September 6, 2022. 2, place the primary site driveway under stop sign control with stop line pavement markings. 3, design and maintain signs, landscaping, and other appurtenances to ensure appropriate sight lines, particularly for site driveways. 4, promptly remove snow windrows within to ensure appropriate sight line, particularly for site driveways. 5, confirm that vehicles can practicably exit the parking spaces at the parking aisle dead ends. And 6, consider enhancing traffic control devices at the Main Street Goulden Avenue intersection by adding one-way and or turn prohibition signs and trimming vegetation. In terms of inclusionary zoning, the proposal requires a special permit because it's creating 8 or more units. The requirement, again, is based on the 15 units, so 15% of the 15 is 2.25. Affordable housing units are required. The proposal will provide 20. They're using an alternative method alternative method of compliance for the fractional unit. The developer's elected to round up and provide one additional affordable housing unit for that fractional unit, 0.25. So therefore, they're providing 3 required affordable housing units. The density bonus is thus allowing 3 additional units, one additional unit for every required affordable housing unit. For submission requirements, we can see they've submitted this memorandum of understanding, or they've signed it. It's been executed by the developer. It's considered sufficient documentation for future compliance. And we also have the compliance memorandum or letter dated October 11, 2023 from the OSPCD that I referenced before. In terms of ledge removal, alteration, or grade, they've walked you through that, how many cubic yards, duration, number of truckloads. So method means to remove ledge is by mechanical means. I have using a hydraulic hammer attached to an excavator, and also drilling and hydraulic splitting. I did not read that into the record, but I did receive an email from the fire department confirming that that method is still prohibited, that drilling and popping, pouring, the use of the expandable grout or concrete.
Michelle Ken has a question.
I'm sorry. I don't know if so Michelle, you're saying the hole ramming, but then you had drilling and popping, so that's prohibited.
No, the hoe ramming isn't. I know the bullets, didn't, the drilling and popping is prohibited.
Right, but what about the drilling and splitting?
They did not say that is hydraulic drilling and splitting you've allowed on other permits. So I would say, I specifically asked about the expandable grout because I knew that had been previously banned.
Right.
So
right.
I didn't ask them about hydraulic splitting because I didn't know they were going to do that until just now. But you've authorized that, so I presume they would be acceptable to that.
Yeah, do we add that now or later?
Yes,
This is a staff.
yes.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend that be put in as a condition when we get there.
Right, this is the report, we haven't reached the recommendations yet.
Okay.
So, pre-ledge removal, survey erosion, I'm sorry, so there's no pre-ledge removal survey submitted. So they've submitted the other info, the erosion plan, drainage calcs, stormwater management plan. I originally had it was under review until this afternoon we received his report dated October 11, 2023. In terms of the demolition alteration delay ordinance, the Historical Commission reviewed and approved the proposed demolition. They rendered a decision dated June 29, 2023. It says attached, but I'm not sure. I might have forgotten to attach it, but findings required to grant a special permit. You would need to make these findings in order to grant a special permit. So 1, any increase or creation in violations of dimensional controls or parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. So those are things like the density violation, the open space violation, the building coverage, other dimensional violations, the parking layout, I think, is also another violation. The height of retaining walls is another violation. So you need to make a determination whether those creation of violations would be more detrimental to the neighborhood. 2, you would need to determine the residential uses in the interest of the common good. 3, you would need to determine compliance with the requirements of the inclusionary zoning ordinance. 4, you need to determine that the proposal to remove ledge is not detrimental to the neighborhood. And 5, that the proposal to remove ledge will not adversely affect the general welfare or public safety. Do you want me to keep going? So, provided you make those recommendations, the recommendation is to grant a special permit, provided you make those findings, provided you make those 5 required findings, the recommendation is to grant a special permit subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans except as modified by these conditions. 2, the maximum number of dwelling units is 20, the maximum number of bedrooms is 37, and as proposed, all shall be affordable housing units. 3, prior to issuance of any occupancy permit, developer owner shall comply with all terms of the memorandum of understanding dated August 14, 2023 regarding affordable housing units, which is attached here to and incorporated herein by reference. 4, developer owner shall implement the following traffic and safety mitigation. A, place primary site driveway exit under stop sign control with stop line pavement markings. B, provide signs and markings that comply with Federal Highway Administration Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways, 2009 edition, revised September 6, 2022. C, design and maintain signs, landscapings, and other appurtenances to ensure appropriate sight lines on-site and at-site driveways. And D, promptly remove snow windrows to ensure appropriate sight lines on-site and at-site driveways. 5, I will note there were several other comments in the peer reviews report I did not include, but that you would need to discuss those if you wanted to include those. 5, install and maintain all open space and landscaping as depicted on the site plan. Retain as many existing trees in rear yard and side yards as possible. 6, install and maintain fall protection safety fencing on top of retaining walls higher than 30 inches. 7, temporary construction dumpsters permitted, no permanent dumpsters allowed. 8, provide bicycle parking for a minimum of 10. That's what they're proposing. Only 2 are required, so I would recommend you say the 10 since they're proposing the 10. 9, install and maintain stormwater management system on site as per plans and subject to reasonable modification by city engineer. I will add to that condition compliance with all recommendations of city engineer as stated in memorandum dated October 11th, 2023, which is incorporated herein by reference. All ledge rock removal excavation may be done only by hydraulic hammer mounted on an excavator and may include hydraulic drilling and hydraulic splitting. It may include drilling and hydraulic splitting. And any ledge rock removal excavation by blasting or any other mechanical or other means is prohibited. 11, during site development, implement erosion controls as per plan. 12, offer and conduct pre-ledge removal video and photographic survey of all buildings within 500 feet of the property lines of the subject property which consent. Provide survey to property owner before ledge removal begins. Provide city with list of all properties surveyed and contacted. 13, during any ledge removal activity, place seismograph on site and at the following properties or property line width. You would need to specify the addresses. Submit seismograph tapes to fire chief for review daily. I've listed in note 3 the properties that directly abut the site. So I don't know if you want to specify property lines of the subject site, you know, for example, northern property line.
What do you recommend?
Well, typically, it's placed on the property line with all abutting properties. However, whereas these, you know, there are multiple properties along the same property line. I'm just not sure, given the, you know, the width or the depth of the site, if you specified, you know, along the northern property line, where would it be? Down at the front or down at the back or up at, you know, so I'm not sure. I've left this up to, we'll have to discuss this and figure this out. I'm not really sure. In past cases, you would say anybody that requests it and or any direct abutters. So I'm not sure. This is a unique site because it, like I said, all the Gould Ave properties abut the northern property line. Then you have the Main Street property, and then you have New Hall Street properties that abut southern and eastern. Let me get the map. So, So, yeah, so on that list, that's correct. So, under note 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4 would be abutters to the northern property line, 209 Main Street. So 5, 6, 7, and 8, so that's 209 Main, 8 Newhall, 10 Newhall, 14 Newhall about the southern property line, and then 18 Newhall abuts the eastern property line.
So why can't we just use that list?
So you want, because you would require 9 seismographs, I think, and I don't know if that's necessary. So I guess it's up to you. I mean, some of the properties are only 30 feet away. You know, the properties that abut aren't, you know, they're dense. So again, if you want one on the back of each property, or you want, a few along that property line, or one, I'm just not sure where it would go. If you said one on the northern property.
Who can tell us that? Do we need Yem to weigh in on this?
No, Yem doesn't typically weigh in on the seismograph placement. Typically, it's the geotech engineer makes a recommendation. And we usually just put any direct property, so we've never been in this situation before. I'm not sure who you would ask for this.
Okay, so then we use the 9 that you identified.
So you would want seismographs on site and at the following properties or property line with these 9 properties.
Yes, if no one else can tell us what's recommended and what's needed, then I think that's what we need to do to protect the neighborhood. It's going to be a lot of ledge removal, and it's a congested area, so.
Okay. Yeah, it's up to the board, yeah. I don't know who you would defer to,
Okay,
yeah.
so 14?
So 14 is maintain liability insurance of a minimum of $1 million, $100,000, $300,000 with City of Malden named as a loss payee. 15, during site development, hire police detail as the police chief deems appropriate and necessary in his reasonable discretion, and hire fire details and provide a fire watch at any time as the fire chief deems appropriate and necessary in his reasonable discretion. Then 16, which was my mistake for not including, because this is a required condition per the ordinance, deliver written notice to all properties within 500 feet of property lines of the subject property indicating the dates of ledge removal activity will be conducted and hours of same. Submit copy of notice to the city. 17, I have as a placeholder, hours of operation for any ledge removal and or construction equipment operated for ledge removal or site grading preparation are, and then you would specify the hours. As we heard from ordinance, it would be, I don't even remember what I said.
You said 9 to 4.
I said 8.
Construction was 7 to 8, and mechanical equipment was 8 to 5.
Right, 8 to 5. Right, what I said was in past decisions, you said 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. But I'll just call that as a placeholder, because I don't know what you want to do with this one.
Ken, you're proposing?
Yeah, Michelle, I'd propose 9 to 5 to give them the full 8-hour workday,
Monday through Saturday?
Monday through Friday. No, give the neighbors a break on Saturday. 8 a.m.? Kind of early.
During a work week?
Yeah. Well, but that's the mechanical noise. That's the mechanical noise, right? So follow the mechanical noise.
What do you,
I was proposing 8 to 5, but if everyone's okay, I mean 9 to 5, but if people like 8 to 5, that's fine.
Well, people can take that, incorporate that into their motion.
Yeah.
Okay, or if you want to talk, they can weigh in, right?
Oh, are you all set, Ken?
Yeah.
Ronnie?
I'd probably suggest 8 to 4. I mean, I'm getting home around 4 o'clock, and then by 5 o'clock, we're sitting down, some of us are getting ready for dinner. So I think 8 to 4, that gives them the 8-hour workday. I think 5's a little bit late.
Okay, well, I'll just hold that as a placeholder, that I'm recommending a condition that you specify the hours, 17. Do you want me to keep going? 18, owner, site engineer, geotechnical engineer, and contractor shall attend a site meeting with city planner, city engineer, building commissioner, and fire department prior to start of work. That's this pre-start work, I say pre-construction, but it's really the pre-ledge removal meeting that we have. So they can coordinate that through me. We all go out to the site, so everybody is on the same page. I bring a copy of the decision, highlighted the conditions, so everybody knows what they are responsible to adhere to.
Okay.
And then, so that's 18, and then finally, I would recommend 19, parking layout in northern driveway may be modified if necessary for transformer. I had transformer access, but it might be the location of the transformer, so maybe just say if necessary for transformer. That way it'll cover everything, hopefully. I think that was everything that I had.
Okay, Patrick Hayes.
Thank you. I just want to go back to all of those seismographs. And could we, in addition to the 9 property locations, could we also add something that says, or as recommended by the project's geotechnical engineer? It's a lot of seismograph units. It's really not, I just don't think it's required.
Who in the city would you think would make that call? Do you
Well,
have any idea on it?
Well,
I don't, or I'd offer
I think it
something
would
up.
be, I think it would be the geotechnical engineer for the project, you know, based on their experience in this kind of rock removal. And then I think it's the kind of thing that would be reviewed at Michelle's kickoff meeting where everybody is there. You confirm the geotech has reviewed it, and we don't need 9 at every one of these properties. We only need whatever he says. And then everybody agrees to it at that meeting.
Okay, so you think that the way to do it is to say that it, are you writing, Michelle?
I'm actually looking up because they already did make a recommendation.
Okay.
This is their geotech engineer. So I'll just find that. And I'm just gonna look at one other thing, too. Okay. So, let me just find it here. Of course, this is when they were proposing blasting. This whole report's about blasting, but I'm still going to see where it said, because I do believe it said someplace. I'm not finding it. I don't know. I don't believe their geotech engineer is here. Are they?
No, they're
Okay.
saying no, so.
So,
Okay, so why don't we put the wording in Pat proposed, that it be a recommendation be made by the geotech engineer and agreed at the pre-construction meeting with planning staff. The only thing I don't like about going to their person is it's not our person. That's the only thing I don't like about it, but if this geotech expert can make a proposal that the staff can vet whether it's reasonable, whether it's reasonable or not, I'd be okay with that.
The only thing I would add to that, Chuck, is that this particular team, they seem to be a really good team. They seem to be going out of their way to meet with the residents, to talk about their ledge removal plan. So, you know, I don't get the sense that they're gonna the geotech would make a recommendation that ultimately would have to be revisited and would cause problems down the road. I think if anything.
Perhaps. Yep. Okay,
I would feel confident with the team they have.
okay. Are you all set, Pat? Did you want to weigh in on the hours of operation?
I think the 8 o'clock start, whether it's 4 or 5, I'm okay, but I think the 8 o'clock start is.
I mean, it's only for the month of the ledge removal. Because the only thing about that way I'd be more in favor of 9 o'clock would be because of traffic, and if there's anything, that's a real congested area on Main Street. But if it's only for a month, 8 o'clock, 8 to 4, Ronnie was saying 8 to 4.
The demo's all gonna be on, it's all gonna be on site, so it shouldn't affect traffic, all the equipment's gonna be there. So I don't think the traffic, I was more concerned with just the
Okay,
8 means they start up a little sooner.
okay, so you were in favor of 8 to 4, Pat?
Yeah, yes.
And you're in favor of 9 to 5?
8 to 4 is fine.
8 to 4, and Ronnie's 8 to 4, so it sounds like 8 to 4. Okay, Ronnie?
In terms of the seismograph, I agreed with Pat. Is there a specific reason these tapes go to the fire chief for review? Should he be a part of the placement of where the seismograph goes if he's reviewing the tapes?
They've always gone to the fire department.
Okay.
I-
Should they
Michelle,
be a
can you
part of
speak to
where
that?
this goes then?
That's why I was asking who in the city would be.
Yeah, I mean,
the person
where-
would go to.
Yeah, where they're reviewing the tapes, I feel like they should be part of the conversation on where the seismograph is going. Because he's gonna be the fire chief's looking at it every day. So I would like to see him be a part of the conversation of where these things go.
He's at the pre-construction meeting, right?
I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, he might send somebody to so what I'm thinking we can say is place seismograph on site, that's definite, right? And on properties, I think it should be, I hear what you're saying, you know, this is a good team that will work, but I do think it should ultimately, you know, the city official needs to be involved, so, on-site and at properties as agreed by fire chief and geotech contractor, right? So their person and our person will determine it. I don't want it to be left up to this meeting, because these meetings turn into a lot of stuff and a lot of people talking about a lot of things. I want to get an answer ahead of time, so I want it to come. So if you're comfortable with fire department, I think that's right. I think that's good. We'll just put it subject to agreement by fire department and geotech.
Okay,
And then if they want 9, they want 1, they want none, it'll be determined. And I presume if there are issues or complaints that come in through this office, my office, or through building or Peg Crow, they'll get sent to the fire department. And then that will get revisited, if we phrase it that way.
okay.
So it could be subject to change. You know, they could come up with a different property to include.
Okay, Ronnie, are you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So as
Stephanie?
agreed by Malden Fire and geotech contractor.
I was wondering about I think someone actually wrote who was building another large building, and we had talked about the HVAC system having barriers for noise.
Screening.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about that here at all? I don't see it anywhere.
Okay, So, let me get that, hold on. So, the condition is screen rooftop mechanicals visually and for noise reduction. That's what we've used in the past. I don't know if there are rooftop mechanicals. So,
Sir, if you can speak to that, can you come up and speak and let us know where the mechanicals are? And
Thank you,
name and
Chairman.
address?
Matt Grosshandler, 113 Norwood Street, Sharon, Mass. The HVAC equipment specified for this project or anticipated for this project will be through heat pumps, which are virtually quiet compared to any rooftop commercial equipment that would have been used in the past, like air handlers and so on. It'll be nothing like the type of equipment that would be used, for instance, on a building like this. They're little fans that run. They're hyper efficient, and that's part of being certified as a green in one of the green communities.
Okay, are you okay with that, Stephanie?
Yeah, do we want to put that just in, saying that that will be the system?
Well, that's in the plan,
Yeah,
right?
that's in.
It's in the plans. It's also a requirement of the certification that the project's seeking.
Right, so it will be part of building it according to plan. Michelle, am I correct?
well, I haven't seen the construction drawing, so I don't know if I don't think that's shown anywhere on the plan that you've seen. I don't believe it's in these plans, and I'm not understanding. Are you saying they're inside, that's an inside system, or it's on the rooftop, and it's just quiet?
They'll likely be on the rooftop, but the units, you would have seen them, like Dakin and Mitsubishi, they're split units.
So you don't know where they are gonna go right now?
Correct, but you do not hear them running.
Does
Janice Mamayak, if I could just add, there will be rooftop units. We're proposing to put like a bathtub in the gabled roof, so you see part of the gable, but the equipment will be mounted lower so that it is screened from view, so that there isn't a condenser farm, as they say, with air handling units at grade, because there's not a lot of grade to put this stuff in. But it will be an all-electric system, and they will be mounted in what we call a bathtub in the roof.
Okay, so if we put the
Screen rooftop mechanicals visually and for noise reduction, you were gonna do that anyway?
Essentially, that's the byproduct of creating that bathtub on the roof.
It's actually going to be screened by the roof
Yeah,
itself.
right. You're cutting into the gable.
Ken?
Inverse screen.
Yeah, so the units, the split units, you're gonna basically have the condensers on the roof. They're gonna be recessed below the roof line, so essentially they're being visually screened, and the noise will also be being screened.
It will inherently have acoustic characteristics with that, yes.
Okay, so it looks like we should add it in, Stephanie. Is that, you satisfied with that, adding it in?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Condition number 20.
Yeah, screen rooftop mechanicals visually and for noise reduction. If there becomes an issue with the noise, neighbors report it, then they will have to do some additional screening for noise reduction. I don't know if this system will work. I believe it won't be seen, but I don't know about the noise reduction, so we'll leave that in.
Okay, Ken, anything else? No?
Not to that, but I had one additional question and/or condition.
Okay. Please.
All right, Michelle, I can't remember if we have an ordinance for truck idling? Is there an existing ordinance, or, because I know we've put that in before, and this is a residential area?
There is something somewhere. You'll remember, I believe, yeah, let me just look it up. Yeah, I'm not finding it. I think that used to be recommended occasionally by the Board of Health, and I think they cited to some state law, but I mean, I'm not sure where they would idle. Are you concerned about construction?
Any trucks can, you know, you just don't want trucks idling, showing up at 6 AM, idling, waiting till the day to start
Where, on the streets?
on the street. Yeah, definitely.
I
on the
mean, that
streets.
would probably be a city parking issue. I don't know. I don't know if there's an ordinance. I don't know if that's in parking regs.
Wouldn't that be captured under the hours of operation?
No, because it should be, but I mean, trucks usually, deliveries, things like that can arrive before construction starts, sitting there. Somebody's driving with a truckload of windows that comes down from Canada and is sitting there at 3 in the morning, waiting for the day to start.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really congested and there's all on-street parking. I don't know where they would go, but I'm not saying if you want to try to put that in, that's a city street though, so you're going to try to add a regulation to a city street. I don't know.
I'm not trying to add a regulation.
Yeah,
I just
but I
don't
mean,
want-
you're gonna try to regulate use of it. I don't know if it would just go back, kick back to the police or whoever, you know,
That's why
a neighbor
I'm asking. I don't
reports
know
it.
if-
Yeah, I don't
if
know.
we have an ordinance. I know we've
Yeah.
included that before because
Yeah.
of concerns with the neighbors and things like that.
I think we've said that for on-site, and I think the special permit could restrict idling on-site. I don't know about the, outside the street, you know, on the street. I don't know if we've ever said that. I think we've put the condition on-site. So if there was a big parking lot and they were gonna pull in and sit there for hours.
Yeah, no, I think I remember
Yeah.
us, when they were working on Pleasant Street on the building that burnt down. I'm pretty sure we put something on there back then, but I don't remember, that's why I asked if there is an actual ordinance, because it does come up
I
as a-
think you're
it
talking
does
about,
come
it
up
was
as an issue.
deliveries going up to that driveway, though. I think they were gonna be in the driveway. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I
remember
can-
that specific.
yeah,
That's why I was
I
asking
can-
if there is an ordinance in the city
yeah.
for
I
that.
just looked that up. I'm not seeing anything. I'm sure there are parking regs.
Yeah, I tried looking it up, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, but while you're talking, I'm gonna look up that Pleasant Street. See what we said. So, that was 505 Pleasant. I mean, if you want to talk about other things while I'm looking it up, I don't know if there's anything else for you to discuss or deliberate. It's going to take me a
Eric
minute to
Henry.
find this, so.
Eric Henry.
I'll take this lull in the action to just comment on the fact that for this particular petition. We actually did receive the report from the city engineer with regards to stormwater report, and that would be more appreciated and expected as a normal part of business. Thank you, and I'll yield.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle, if you can't find it, it may have just been a point of discussion back then as well. Certainly the construction hours are gonna cover, you're not gonna be able to have trucks idling beyond that, but, you know, it does become an issue sometimes. But if it becomes an issue, that would be something that the police or someone else would deal with. So we don't need to add anything or create a new ordinance at this meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not, I'm not
Okay,
finding
is
that
there any
decision.
other questions for Michelle? No other questions for Michelle. Is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant a special permit with the 20 conditions discussed.
Okay, Ken's made a motion to grant with the 20 conditions discussed.
Did you agree on hours of operation? I don't have
8 to
that. I
4.
thought it
8
was
to 4.
discussed. Okay.
Henry Susi.
I'd like to second that motion, please.
So Henry's seconded the motion. Give me a second to get ready. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Ken Antonucci?
Yes.
Diane Chuha?
Yeah, excuse me, yes.
Risa Gray?
Yes.
Patrick Hayes?
Yes.
Eric Henry?
Yes.
Henry Susi?
Yes.
Stephanie Stone?
Yes.
Ronnie Raj Verma?
Yes.
Chuck Iovine?
Yes. Petition's been granted with conditions. Thank you very much and good luck with it. Thank you.